Hey guys, how are you all? Today we are back with another playing Naruto story. What if Kushina take Naruto to Whirlpool? If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comment. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. So let's start the story.
Naruto page 0, v. I am finally had enough of this village and everyone in it. I run to my shitty apartment and grab my stuff and head out. I use Henge to get out the gate and head in the direction of the old Whirlpool village. When I get there I see it's not destroyed or in ruin, it's in one piece. I run over and see people walking around minding their own business. All of a sudden the all bow I look and see a man in his mid to late 20s walking around in an expensive kimono with a sword on his hip and a headband on his head. He looks at me and walks over and says, "Hello Naruto." I say, "How do you know me?" I say, "I know you cause your mother was my younger sister. I am your uncle." He kneels down and opens his arms with a big smile on his face. I ran over and hugged him. I ask, "Why did you come get me, uncle?" He says, "Come with me, I'll tell you in the palace." I say, "Palace?" He nods and says, "I am a king." Naruto, your mother was a princess, which makes you a prince of the Uzumaki clan. Come, I can explain." I follow him. He asks, "Why are you wearing such a ugly jumpsuit?" I say, "Well, the Leaf Village don't like me very much and the shop owners won't sell to me, or when they do they charge me very high." He nods and says, "I'll get you some new clothes made for you." I smile. I am going to like being a prince. 5 years later, the Chunin exams. Naruto page 0. Vimi, my uncle, Minako and Daisuke arrive in the Leaf for the Chunin exams. As we walk in, an Anbu says, "The Hokage is waiting for you, your majesty." My uncle nods and says, "Show those two to our hotel. The prince will come with me." The Anbu nods and escorts Minako and Daisuke to the hotel. Another shows us to the Hokage's office. As we walk in we are led to the council chambers and we enter. Old man Hokage says, "Welcome your majesty. The Leaf is honored to have the king and prince of the Whirlpool country here." My uncle sits and I sit next to him. When Sarutobi Gigi sees me he gets shocked and says, "Naruto, is that you?" I nod and say, "Yay, it's me." I guess my blood bounding with my uncle turning me into a full Uzumaki caused my appearance to change. Well, just my hair color. The head of the Haruno clan stands up and says, "This demon can't be a prince." A kunai barely misses her. My uncle says, "Watch what you say about my nephew in my presence. He is the prince and you can't say anything about it. It's his birthright." A member of the civilian council stands up and grabs the kunai that was in the wall and says, "Yay, it's his birthright to die." He comes at me, but before he can even reach me my chakra chains shoot out and wrap around him. "I am the prince of the Uzumaki clan. You have no say in it. Am I clear?" I tightened the chains. He nod while he gasps in pain. I let him go. My uncle says, "Anyone else want to attack a crowned prince while the king is nearby and with bodyguards?" No one moves. He nods and says, "I have brought my best genin to participate in the Chunin exams, my nephew included. He has been trained by me personally." My uncle signed the paperwork and we left. He says, "Keep your guard up, nephew. These people still hate you." I nod and walk to Ichiraku Ramen. When I get there I say, "Tenchi Gigi Ayumi Ne-chan." On large bowl of ramen. Tenchi turns and says, "Naruto, is that you?" I nod and said, "Yay, it's me." I ran away to the Whirlpool country and met my uncle. He made the prince. I even found out who my mother is. Her name was Kushina Uzumaki. He smiles and says, "I am glad for you, Naruto. You deserve to know who your parents are." All of a sudden I hear, "Hey dope, what are you doing here?" I turn and say, "None of your damn business, Teme. Besides I am the one who holds the higher position this time." He says, "Ow, and how's that being even bigger, dope?" I say, "No, I met my long lost uncle and he is the king of the Whirlpool. He made me the prince." He says, "I bought that highly." I hear one of my guards say, "OG Naruto, your uncle the king wishes to see you." And I hurry. He sound angry. I nod and say, "I'll take that ramen to go." Tenchi hands me my ramen. I pay and run off. I don't want to keep my uncle waiting. When I get to where the guards lead me I say, "What's up, uncle?" He turns and says, "Well, a elder of the village has a problem with us. His name is Danzo. He claims I am nothing more than a low-level shinobi who is just lying through my teeth. He wants to send some Anbu to the village to prove it, but the problem is I know they're his own. They will try to either take over or destroy the village." I said that I will allow the Hokage to come with us and to hold the second part of the exam in the Whirlpool village, but for now you know I told you to wear the kimono and crown of a prince only during the exam, as when you don't have to wear it. I sigh and note I hate wearing that kimono and crown, but I got no choice. My uncle says, "Just be glad I am not your mother. She would have forced you to wear it. She would even seal the crown onto your head." I shiver at the thought. Uncle says, "Okay, I got your new ninja gear ready." I pulls out a box and shows me my new clothes. He had a black shirt with the Uzumaki clan symbol on the back with a black runner's jacket, black Anbu style pants and shoes with black fingerless metal back gloves, and he says, and as a surprise he pulls out a black katana with the Uzumaki clan symbol on the saya and a fox on the suba. I smile and grab it. While hugging my uncle he laughs a bit and hugs me back, and he says, "I had the sword made for you. It's like mine. It will grow with you, and as you grown it will change depending on how you use it. If you have played Fable 3, the weapons on there do the same. It will never break." Or dull and only you and your line can use it, so don't worry about some of your former comrades trying to take it. I smile. He says, ow, I got your new headband. The same headband he has in Shippuden, but the symbol of the Uzumaki clan on it. It was black with the clan symbol on it. I smile, I grab it and tie it on my head. I look myself in the mirror and I look awesome, my uncle says, and this he hands me a necklace and says this was my grandfather's. He said it's been in the family since it began. I am giving it to you now, Naruto, take good care of it, it's very old. I smile and hug my uncle again and run out with my new sword on my hip. Ichiro page 0, v. I smile. I am glad my nephew can finally be happy. This village and its people don't deserve his loyalty. I head for the council chambers. When I get there, the head of the Haruno clan says we demand our Jinchuriku. I say, well, unfortunately that's never going to happen. Naruto is the prince and heir of the Uzumaki clan. He is a loyal Uzu shinobi and you took it for granted. Do you know how powerful he is now thanks to my training? The training he wouldn't get here cause from what I was told he so-called sensei Kakashi Hitaki favored Sasuke Uchiha and Sakura Haruno over him. He was supposed to train them equally. Now if I was called here because of this, then I am out of here. I get up and walk out. Naruto page 0, v. I am walking around the village just seeing if anything had changed. I was enjoying myself until I saw my former sensei. He says, hey Naruto, how's it going? I say, beat it Hitaki. He says, now Naruto, that's no way to talk to your sensei. I say, you're not my sensei anymore. I am a prince. I can do what I want. The only one who can tell me what to do is my uncle. You have a lot of nerve talking to me after what you did. He says, and what would that be? I say, not teaching me jack shit. The only thing you taught me was how to climb trees with my chakra. After I left the village and met my uncle, he trained me. Now I am at your level and no, I am not going to show you, so don't ask. I have a few reasons when I rather wait until the exams so I can show all those who made fun of me and wrote me off as weak, even you. I turn to walk away, but Kakashi sensei grabs my shoulder and says I didn't do it on choice. Naruto, I shake off his hand and say, I don't care. Your rule is those who break the rules are trash, but those who abandon their friends are worse. Trash. I know who my father is, Kakashi, and he would be ashamed of you, him and my mother. I walk away from a shocked-faced Kakashi. I call one of my guards and ask, can one of you spar with me? I need to practice my Kenjutsu. He bows and says I would be honored. Naruto-sama, I nod and we go to a training ground. Me and my guard train. He shows me the stances and tells me my weak points. After an hour I am sitting on the ground under a tree panting. I chug some water and say thanks. He says you're welcome, Naruto-sama. He leaves to watch me from a safe distance, close enough to respond should I be in trouble, but far enough so he can't be detected. I hear someone laughing. I look and see Sasuke standing there. He's laughing at me. I say, what's funny, Teme? He says, I am surprised that a dope like you can even wield a sword, let alone pick it up, and one like that. He holds out his hand and says, I demand you give it to me. A dope like you can never use it to its fullest. Only an elite Uchiha like me can. I say, sorry, no can do. For one, it was made for me. My uncle even made sure that me and my descendants are the only ones who can use it, so anything else maybe. Demand I hand you my title of prince. Out. That's right, you are a prince of the Uchiha clan, which there are only two of you left, you and your sadistic older brother. He glares at me and I say, what's wrong, Teme? Did I strike a chord? Is your brother and clan a touchy subject for you? Well, I don't give a rat's ass. For years you and this village have done nothing but beat and ridicule me. You constantly treated me like I was a waste of space. Well, let me tell you, at least I contributed to our team, unlike Sakura, who would rather dream about you fucking her than take her car as a shinobi seriously. She had poor taijutsu, ninjutsu and genjutsu skills. Her skills with teamwork and you are shot to shit. If I was in danger and about to die, I know neither of you would move a muscule to save me. Just let me die. Sakura thinking she could get closer to you, you thinking I wouldn't slow you down, and Kakashi, he rather train and protect his favorite student. I stand up and start to walk away. Sasuke says, hey dope, get back here. I say, no thanks Uchiha, I am going to be the bigger man, and walk away. I rather watch as your anger and greed control you and isolate you to the point not even Sakura and Ino will come near you. He throws a kunai at me. My guard deflects it and says, you will not harm Naruto-sama. Sasuke is shocked that an Anbu would protect me. I say, Sasuke, this is one of my guards. Her name is Mito, a member of the branch family of the Uzumaki, and unlike the Hyuga, their only job is to protect the main house. Mito here is actually my aunt, my uncle and mother's sister. Ow, by the way, thanks Aunt Mito. The Anbu takes off her mask and smiles, saying you're welcome, Naruto. She leaves and I walk away. For the next few hours Sasuke follows me around. For what I don't know, I run into Sakura next. She yells, Naruto baka, let Sasuke-kun go from your genjutsu. She goes to punch me. I grab her hand and squeeze. I say with my demon voice, since me and Kurama became friends, touch me again Haruno and I'll hang you by your entrails. I am not the same Naruto you knew. I am a lot stronger. And I have finally found a place where I can fit in my voice returns to normal and I won't stand for you hitting me on the head anymore. I don't even like you anymore. I have someone I should have paid attention to from the beginning. I let go of her hand and walk away. She yells, yay right, you still like me, just wait, you're going to ask me out and I am going to say no. I shake my head and just ignore her. As I am walking around I run into Hinata. I say hey Hinata. She blushes and says hello NN Naruto-kun. I say he was wondering if you would go on a date with. She eeps and blushes really badly and says I would love TT to Naruto-kun. I smile and say great, I'll meet you at the academy at 6 tomorrow. She nods and I walk away with a grin on my face. Ichiro page 0, v. Since me and Naruto arrived, the council has been driving me insane, like them offering me a wife, one of their members or Danzo on of his Anbu, thinking that if he can get me to marry a female member of his root I would get her pregnant. She would then kill me in my sleep, allowing her to take control of the hidden Whirlpool village and making Danzo king. Then he would have kids to his line, would remain in control. But I see where this is going. I am not stupid, even though Uzumaki can be brash, hyper and loud-mouthed, but we have been like that since the start of our clan. But we are not stupid. It makes me so mad when people think we are stupid because of how we act. I mean, I look like a male Medusa when I am mad. My hair floats in different directions and looks like snakes. I remember when my sister Kushina would look like that when she was younger, when I got on her nerves, but she was a nice little sister. She looked up to me to set an example for her to grow up to and say look to me to protect her until she was old enough and strong enough to do so herself. I do miss her, but she died the day Naruto was born. I sigh. I hear one of my guards ask, you okay my lord? I nod and say yes I am fine, just tired is all, and I miss my sister Kushina. He nods and say I would to my lord. I walk to the flower shop and head to the graveyard and look until I find her grave. I place the flowers, which are kinmokase, which are orange osmanthus. A tear sheds off my face. My sister Mito says, Ichi ni, are you okay? I nod and say I am fine Mito, I just miss Kushina. That's all. She nods and hugs me and says I miss her too, she was my older sister. I walk back to the hotel ready to end the day. Naruto page 0, v. Sasuke is getting on my nerves. He won't leave me alone until I give him my sword, and he keeps saying that I am not a prince. The Uzumaki are nothing but weakling compared to the Uchiha, yada yada yada. I am sick of it. I am about to kick his stuck-up Uchiha ass so hard he will be begging me to stop. I keep walking. I have my guards nearby should he try something, even though I can handle myself, but my uncle says it's to make him and the rest of the clan feel better knowing their prince is safe at all times. As I am walking I can see my uncle. I run over. He says, hey Naruto, what are you doing? I say I am trying to lose the Teme. He won't leave me alone until I give him the sword you had made for me, and I am trying to act as much as a prince should, but he puts his hand on my shoulder and says, I know Naruto, remember when I was prince I was expected to act a certain way in public. The only time I didn't was when I was home in my room. I got mad during those days because I had other kids getting on my nerves. No one wanted to be friends with me cause they were scared of my father and the fact they didn't want to accidentally hurt the prince and be punished because of it. But I am not going to expect you to act like that. I am not my father, so if the Teme really gets on your nerves you have my permission to kick his stuck-up Uchiha ass. I smile and hug him saying thanks uncle. He says you're welcome Naruto, now how about you join your uncle for lunch? I hear my stomach growl. I laugh. So does he. We walk to Ichiraku Ramen after we have eaten our lunch. My uncle says okay Naruto, the Chunin exams begin tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning, be there with your teammates and be ready. I nod and he walks away, but before he gets too far I say uncle. He turns around and hums, I kinda got a date tonight, so could you help me out? He smiles and says sure, come on. I run over and we head to the hotel so I can get ready. Once we get there I am going through all my clothes and can't find anything to wear. I sigh in anger and say uncle, I can't find anything. We walks over with the orange kimono with foxes on it and the Uzumaki clan symbol on the back. He says here, wear this. I put it on and look myself over in the mirror. I brush my long red hair. It turned red when my uncle did the blood bonding and it grew very quick once I looked okay. My uncle looks me over and straightens my kimono a bit. He smiles and nods. He says now you're ready to knock that young lady out of her socks. I smile and he says what's her name? I say Hinata Hyuga. He says you mean that girl who faints at the very sight of you? I nod and say she liked me all this time and I was too oblivious to notice, plus I was always trying to get Sakura to like me. He nods and says it's okay Naruto, it happened to me as well. Unfortunately she died during a mission before I could ask her out. I ask what was her name. He says her name was Akari Uzumaki. She was a very sweet girl, kind to everyone in the village. A lot of parents tried to marry her to their sons, but her and her parents parents refused every offer. My parents didn't try. Because of that we talked and I found out the reason her parents refused those offers was because she liked me, but she died during a mission before our first date and I've been single since then. The elders keep pushing me to find a wife and marry, but it doesn't work like that. But I'll tell you more later. You're going to be late. I smile and run out to meet Hinata. When I get there, Kiba is hitting on her saying, come on Hinata, don't go out with a dope like Naruto, date me. She says, sorry Kiba, but I am dating Naruto, and that's final. I walk over and say, ready to go Hinata. She nods and we go. Kiba says, who are you? I say, you don't remember me Kiba, it's me Naruto. I left the village and became prince of the Whirlpool country. He says, how you're a dope. I say, that was all just an act. I am smarter and stronger that I lead you all to believe. Now come Hinata or we will miss our reservation my uncle got for us. She nods and says, why yes and Naruto-kun. We walk away from a shocked and mad Kiba. Time skip. Naruto page 0, v. I am walking Hinata home. When we get there, her father is waiting on us. He says, come in you two, I have something I would like to discuss with you and your uncle is here. Naruto, I am a little confused. What could Hinata's father want with me and my uncle, and how does it involve Hinata? Did we get into trouble? When we get in, I see my uncle sitting down. He motions me over to sit next to him and Hinata sits next to her father. Her father says, so did you two have fun? Hinata with a shocked face says, yes father, we did. He nods. My uncle says, I am here Naruto is because Hisashi here wants to betroth you and Hinata, which means once you reach the age of 16 you are to marry. I was shocked. Hinata's father wants to marry his daughter to me, the demon brat. Hisashi says, that is the gist of it. Yes, it also will form an alliance between our clans. My uncle says, now Naruto, you and Hinata have a choice in this. If you don't want to, all you have to say is no, we are not going to force you into this. I say, well Hinata, what do you think? Do you want to marry me? She looks down with a blush and says without a stutter, yes I do Naruto-kun, I have loved you since you stood up for me from those bullies. I smile and say, well uncle, our answer is yes. He smiles and says, well then you two are to marry when you are 16, so until then you're engaged. Also a warning, if either of you is caught cheating on the other, the marriage will be cancelled and you won't be allowed to see each other again. Am I clear? We nod and says, yes uncle, your majesty. My uncle smiles and says, besides either of you will cheat. Now we will be going. You two have a busy day tomorrow. Come nephew. I say, yes uncle. I walk over to Hinata and kiss her on the cheek and say, see you tomorrow. She blushes and says, see you tomorrow Naruto-kun. Smile and walk out. Time skip. The next morning. Naruto page 0, v. I walk into the academy with Minako and Daisuke. We get to the room we are supposed to, and as we are, I see the Teme getting his ass handed to him, but a guy with bushy eyebrows. I laugh and get to the room. The one thing I didn't want to wear was my crown. My uncle says it's battle ready so it won't break, but do I have to show my status? But my uncle wouldn't take no for an answer. He says, and I quote, it's a good way to show those who made fun of you how far you have come since you left. I sigh in annoyance. I didn't want to go against my uncle. He is scary. When he is angry he says my mother was worse. I don't even want to know, but before we get there I take my crown off and place it in a storage seal. When we walk in, Hinata runs over and kisses me on the cheek. I smile and kiss her back. She blushes with a small smile on her face. I hear Kiba say, get your paws off Hinata, you dope, she is mine. I say, well to bad Kiba. Her father and my uncle arranged us to be married last night, so right now Hinata is my fiancé and there is nothing you can do. He throws a few kunai at me. I use my chakra chains to block and throw them back at him. He dodges and says, what was that? I say, that was my bloodline. The chakra chains, they are made of nothing but chakra and absorb the chakra of any who touches them, but me and that chakra if feed to me, making me stronger and you grow weaker. He glares at me. I say, now Kiba, I can't stop you from being near Hinata since she is your teammate, but I can stop you from touching her. I flash behind him and place a seal on him. I know how he is, so I made it last night before I went to bed. I say, that seal I just placed will keep you from touching Hinata. Now get to where I can trust you and I will remove it. Until then, well, you get the idea. The proctor walks in and says, alright maggots, listen up, I am Ibikimorno and I'll be your proctor for the first part of the exams, so shut up and turn in your form. You will then receive a number. This number will determine where you will sit. I turn in my forms and sit down and see Hinata is sitting next to me. I smile and the Chunin exams begin. Naruto page 0, v. Me, Minako, Daisuke are in the room. The first part of the Chunin exams take place at I see Sasuke walking over. He says, hey dope, who is the hottie next to you? I say, she is my cousin Teme and her name is Minako, my aunt Mito's daughter, and next to her is her brother Daisuke. Now leave us be Teme. We walk away until Sasuke grabs my shoulder. I grab his hand and twist his wrist and flip him over my shoulder onto the floor. He looks at me in shock, then anger. He jumps up and charges at me, going for a punch. I block and dodge his attacks. I guess his loss to bushy brows eyebrows really hurt his pride. This keeps going until as he goes for another punch my uncle appears and catches his fist and throws him into the wall. Sakura attacks him. I use my chakra chains to stop her and say you so much as lay a finger on my uncle Haruno and I'll show you why they call me a demon. She yells, Naruto baka, let me go, he must be punished for what he did to Sasuke-kun. I tighten my chains and say you can't touch him, he's a king. You do that, it will be the same as the leaf declaring war on the Whirlpool. A fight the leaf can't afford right now. I throw her to the wall on top of Sasuke in the 69 position. Everyone laughs. Ino gets mad and yanks Sakura off Sasuke. The window breaks and standing there is a purple-haired woman. She says, okay brats, I am the proctor of the second half of the Chunin exams, but they aren't here, they're in our neighboring hidden village, the Hidden Eddy village in the Whirlpool country. You brats have a week to get there, so go, your week starts now. We all rush out towards the hidden Whirlpool village and my home. Ichiro page 0, v. I see Anko and say hey Anko. She looks at me and smile. When she notices it's me she runs over yelling Ichiro-kun. He hugs the life out of me, my head in between her assets. I say Anko need air. She lets me go, blushing considering where my face was. I say I guess you missed me. She nods, of course I did, why shouldn't I miss my boyfriend? I blush a bit. I say Anko come on, I'll but you some dango in my home village. We walk outside the gates and I summon a dragon and we fly there. Once we get there and we walk in, villagers and shinobi bow to me. I lead Anko to the dango shop and order 4 sticks, 2 for both of us and some tea. Anko says hey Ichiro, why is it so hot? I say the village is near a swamp that's 500 miles wide, it gets pretty humid here, we are used to it. She nods and eats her dango. As we do I see my fangirls glaring at Anko. Once the elders hear of this and the fact that Anko isn't an Uzumaki, well you can guess they will blow their lids. They are like the Hyuga, they want to keep the bloodline pure. They weren't very friendly to Naruto because he isn't pure Uzumaki. I had to threaten them so they would be nice to him. Ever since I became king they have been trying to get me to marry one of their daughters, one being my cousin, my father's brother. I know he wants to be king and I know he's waiting for the right moment to take the throne from me. I know his plan is to get me to marry his daughter, then once we were married he would have her either kill me in my sleep or poison me then take over, but I'm not falling for it. After me and Anko finished eating our dango I showed her around the village. I took her to the sakura orchard. When we got to the oldest tree there I pulled a small box out of my robes and got on one knee. I said, Anko, we have been dating for 5 years now and I loved every moment of it, so will you marry me? She gets a big smile and I can see tears in her eyes. She says no, yells yes Ichiro Uzumaki, I will marry you. I smile and place the ring on her finger. I stand up and kiss her. As we do Anko's dirty side comes out and places my hands on her butt. I chuckle a bit into the kiss she has done that before. When we stop all of the village is clapping and cheering, some shouting congratulations Ichiro-sama. I smile. I see the council and they are mad but they can't do anything. There is no daimyo for them to go over my head. I can also see my little sister Mito in the crowd clapping. I motion her over and she hugs me saying I'm happy for you big brother. I smile and say thanks lil sis. Naruto and his cousins run over and hug me congratulating me. Everyone but the council except Anko, they're too old-fashioned for their own good. Once all the genin make it here I'll explain the second part of the exams to them. They have 4 more days to get here. Ichiro's page 0, v. The rest of the teams have arrived, so I have them gather around and say welcome to the hidden Whirlpool village, home of the Uzumaki clan. I am the Azukage and head of the Uzumaki clan. I am here to explain the second part of the Chunin exams. A map drops down and I say this is known as Hell's Swamp. We call it that for a few reasons. One, it's swarming with man-eating beasts, and yes, they can also eat shinobi even. Enbu. Now in the center is a dome. This is where you must go and you must in a heaven and earth scroll. You will be given one. To get the other you must fight the team with the scroll you need while you also defend your own. This is to simulate the missions you will go on as Chunin. You have 5 days to reach the dome and you may not look inside the scrolls until you reach it. If you do well I'll let that be a surprise. Now get going, I have Chunin there waiting on you. When you arrive you will sign a waiver so that my village and clan are not held responsible should you die. Now move. They run off to the swamp. I jump down next to Anko and place my arm around her waist. She leans against me and lays her head on my shoulder. When I hear my grandfather, the head of the elders, Ichiro Uzumaki, are you crazy marrying out of the clan? There are many Uzumaki women who would have bore your children without you even having to ask. I say Gigi, the old ways are dying out. If we stick to them too much it will mean our destruction. My nephew, your great-grandson, is strong, so is his Uzumaki blood. Despite that he isn't pure-blooded, he's half Uzumaki. He has our personality. He acts the way we do. I am clan head and I am marrying Anko. I know you were a great shinobi in your time, Gigi, almost like Hashirama and Madara. You have my love and respect, but shut up already. I could have done sealed your mouth shut. I just didn't get Beka's Tokusu of the fact you're my grandfather. How would Kushina act if she heard you didn't love your great-grandson just because is only half Uzumaki? He sighs and says you're right Ichiro, you're wise for your age, very wise, I approve of your marriage. The other elders gasp and say but Genri Uusai-sama, if he does our royal bloodline will be tainted. He says he is clan head and gets to do what he wants, we are just here to advise him, and the way he just defend not only Anko but his nephew with those wise words, then I believe we are in stable hands. I haven't heard words like that since my Gigi spoke to me. I smile glad for the praise. I walk over and hug him and say thanks Gigi. He smiles and says you're welcome Ichiro, but I want one great grandson named after me. Deal? I laugh and Genri Uusai is a strong name, so I say deal Gigi. He smiles. He says there is one more thing I want to give you. I hadn't yet cause I didn't think you were ready, but now I think no believe you are. I follow him to his house down into his basement. He opens a chest and pulls out a sword. I could feel the power coming from it. In his time he was a master swordsman and a master of the fire style. I say Gigi, is that what I think it is? He nods and says yes, it's Ryujin Yaka, my sword, the sword of the sun. I've had Madara Uchiha himself after me for this blade, it's a living weapon. He hands the blade out to me. I take it and draw it and it bursts into flames. I felt a prick on M hand and then I knew how to use it like a master. I just need to practice. Gigi says this sword has been passed down our family for years from clan head to clan head. It was your father's but he died before he could use it. Your uncle tried to become clan head by default but Ryujin Yaka wouldn't accept him as its new wielder, so I took the position of clan head again until you were of age. Careful grandson, your uncle still wants to be clan head. He thinks that a sword choosing the head of our clan is stupid. He will try to make himself clan head, so keep you eyes open. All of a sudden I felt the seal I placed on Naruto for him to call me should he ever be in over his head flare. I flash to him and see Orochimaru. I slip the scabbard through my obi belt and charge. I block his blade. He smirks and says well, if it isn't the Azuki. He sees the flames coming off my sword and is shocked. No, it can't be the sword of the sun. Ryujin Yaka. I smirk and say yes Orochimaru, it is. All things in the universe burned to ashes. Ryujin Yaka. The flames intensifies, melting his kunai. Sasuke. Page 0. V. That sword must become mine. With it I can defeat Itachi. Sakura. Page 0. V. That sword should belong to Sasuke-kun. Naruto. Page 0. V. That's Gigi's sword. He must have given it to Uncle Ichiro. I cover my eyes as the flames on the sword get hotter and brighter. Ichiro. Page 0. V. I got Orochimaru dodging my slashes. Getting burned by this sword will make you think you're in hell. He gets his sword and blocks my next slash and we just go back and forth. He summons a giant 8-headed snake. I jump back and summon Hachi. I jump onto his head and we charge the snake. After a few more minutes he retreats, but not before he places his curse mark on the Uchiha. I run over and look over the mark. I can't remove it. It will kill him if I tamper with it right now. We will have to wait until it settles down. I say Naruto, take your team and team 7 to the dome now. He may come back. Naruto nods and the race off. I sigh, why am I feeling old? I head back to Anko and finish our date. Naruto. Page 0. V. Me, Minako and Daisuke have made it to the dome with the scrolls and get to go on to the next part of the exams. I see Sasuke glaring at my uncle. I know he wants my uncle's sword, but even if he got it, it won't work for him. It chooses its owners. It's a living weapon. After my uncle explained the rules of the preliminaries, Sasuke walks over to him and says what can cost him his life. Hand over the sword. Uzumaki. Dope. Only an Uchiha can wield a sword like that properly. My uncle does something I have never seen him do to a kid. I guess Sasuke is getting on his nerves. He kicks Sasuke into the wall, causing a crater. The other genin look in shock and fear. He says Uchiha Sasuke, you dare demand me, a king, to hand over his weapon? You may be heir to the Uchiha clan, but even when you become clan head I'll still have the higher standing. You make one more demand of me and I'll have you removed from the Chunin exams permanently. Lion Tiger 2 Anbu appear. He says keep an eye on him at all times. He so much as make any move against anyone in our village, arrest him for assault and have him sent back to the Leaf Village in shackles. They bow and say yes your highness. He nods and walks away. Sasuke really needs to learn when to pick his fights. He's lucky my uncle held back when he hit him into the wall. If he didn't he would have gone straight through and would have kept going. I shake my head in annoyance. The matches go the same way in the anime. I will make a few changes. Minako Uzumaki vs Ino Yamanaka. I say good luck Kuz. She smiles and says thanks Naru. She jumps down into the ring where Ino is waiting for her. Minako. Page 0. V. I smile. I read her file. She hasn't taken her shinobi career seriously. I can tell by the look of her too thin to have any muscle of any kind, and by the look of it she is on a diet where she avoids meat. That kind of diet isn't healthy for our lifestyle. You need protein. She charges at me. I dodge or block her punches and kick easily. I see her getting mad. This what Daisuke and Minako look like, just imagine the Whirlpool's symbol on Daisuke's headband. I say you give good Kunoichi a bad name. Your punches and kick are too easy to block or dodge, they're too slow and weak. I let a punch to my face hit and say, see, I didn't even feel that. You must be doing this for a boy, and if I had to guess, it is that arrogant Uchiha who tried to take my uncle's sword. I knock her arm down and kick her in the solar plexus. She goes down holding her gut and gasping for breath. She gets back up and throws kunai and shuriken at me. I do the seals and say secret Uzumaki styled chakra chain wall. A wall of purple chains come out of my back and block the kunai and shuriken. I have the chains gab it and throw them back at her. She dodges only two, but the rest are in her arms and legs. I aimed at non-fatal spots. She is panting in pain and out of breath. I say, you're pathetic. I run at her and knock her out. The ref says winner by knockout Minako Uzumaki. I smile. I was hoping for a better opponent, but I can wait until the finals. Uncle Ichi's training is paying off. I go back to my brother and cousin. My brother and Naruto are high-fiving me and saying good job. Uncle Ichi appears and says, good job Minako, you made me proud, not just as your king or sensei, but as your uncle as well. I smile and say thank you uncle. He smiles. I see a few of the female senseis here are blushing, even some of the teenage genin are as well. Daisuke Uzumaki vs Neji Hyuga. Daisuke page 0, v. Minako says good luck bro. Naruto says yay, kick his butt goose. I smile and say thanks guys. I jump down and pull out my dual scythes. My uncle had them made for me when he saw I was a natural with them. The Hyuga says give up now, it is your destiny to lose to me Uzumaki. I say with pride, never. We Uzumaki never give up. You have a better chance to kill me than make me give up. I can tell my uncle is smiling and my mother who is standing next to him. The Hyuga glares and charges. When the ref gives the go ahead, we charge at each other. He goes for my chakra points. I block his strikes with my scythes. I use the blunt side to attack our villages or allies. I jump back and throw one at him. He dodges it. I use a seal I placed on the handle and it is back in my hand. He looks shocked. I say we Uzumaki are seal masters. My uncle the king is the best seal master in the whole shinobi nations right now. I learned from him. Time skip. Our fight went on for another 10 minutes, but he got lucky and managed to knock me down and was about to kill me until my uncle appears in front of me and Ryujin Yaka pointed at Neji. He lights the sword on fire and says you will not kill my nephew. He scoffs and the ref says winner by interference Neji Hyuga. I say thanks uncle. He turns and says you're welcome Daisuke, you better get up to your mother before she gets crazy. I nod and flash to her. She is hugging me being worried and proud. I smile. I look up at the screen and see Naruto Uzumaki vs Kiba Inuzuka. Kiba yells yes, we got an easy one here, let's go Akamaru. He jumps down and sees Naruto already there. The ref says you both know the rules. Begin. They charge at each other. Ichiro page 0, v. Kurenai says sorry your highness, but Kiba has got this one in the bag. I say I wouldn't count my nephew out just yet. Kurenai-san, I trained him myself in Kenjutsu, Ninjutsu, Taijutsu, Genjutsu and Fuinjutsu, and tell you a secret, Naruto is wearing weights almost a ton on each limb. I say to Naruto, Naruto take them off. He says you sure uncle? I nod and say yes, show him not to underestimate you. He grins and jumps up to the statue forming a hand seal and removes the weight on his legs and arms and drops them. They shake the building like an earthquake of 10.0 on the Richter scale. Everyone is shocked he could move with so much weight on. He says that's better now, I can move freely. He takes one step and is gone. Well, not to me, I can see him. He's moving so fast no one can't see him with untrained eyes or without a dojutsu. I am sure I could see guy without weights and all 8 inner gates open. Kiba says come out coward and fight. Naruto says ow, I am not hiding, I am just moving so fast you can't see me. He moves again and this time send Kiba flying into a wall. I look over to Guy and see even he is shocked. He asks your highness how much weight does he carry? I say almost a ton on each limb along with resistance seals, so he is still holding back. He was even more shocked. Lee asks Guy sensei what are resistance seals? I say they are seals that create a bubble of air behind the spot they are placed, causing resistance. They are better than weights, they make you use all of the muscles than just certain ones like weights. When I first trained him with those plus his weight he called me a slave driver. I lift up my pants leg and show the same weights and say but I told him that I got the same training when I was his age, so he shucked it up and did it. Now he sees the results of his hard work. We look back and see Kiba in a creator in the ground out cold. Naruto had won with ease. I am proud he finally showed the ones who put him down that he isn't weak. The rest of the matches go like they did in the anime. Ichiro page 0, v. I am training my nephew and niece for the finals. Minako is going against the Sunaku Noichi, Sasuke is going against Gaara of the Sand, and Naruto is up against Neji Hyuga. I have clones training Minako and I am training Naruto. Personally, one thing I have done is place seal on him to make it harder for Neji to hit his chakra points. Well, I taught it to him and he placed it on himself. I am also increasing his Kenjutsu training. Fighting a Hyuga in up close combat is a stupid move unless you can protect your chakra points from their gentle fist, which is what I have been teaching him. He is using clones to speed up the process. He has enough clones to have 5 years of experience in using the style by the time the finals gets here, which in 1 week. I am also training to use Ryujin Yaka better. My use of the living sword has gotten better. I can now keep the flames burning for a whole 5 minutes. I hope to get to where I can keep them going for as long as I want, but that will take time. But Naruto in improving by leaps and bounds. He is now as strong as me when I was his age, and trust me, that's because my father put me through the ringer. Almost constant training with little rest. One thing that's been annoying is all his hat. Sasuke has been coming here every day demanding that I train him like I do Naruto, but I refuse and then have my Anbu kick him out. He keeps finding a way back in. It is annoying, but I admire his persists. He reminds me of someone I knew like that. I wonder who his parents are. He looks like a girl I used to date before my friend stole her from me and betrayed me. I'll ask him when he comes to demand training from me again. Time skip. Naruto page 0, v. Sasuke is driving me insane by demanding I have my uncle train him for the finals, but he is training with Kakashi, so he should be good. I check on Minako and she is doing pretty good against our uncle's clones. Her taijutsu has improved as well as her use of the chakra chains. I was about to say something when our uncle says, okay you two, we are calling it for today. Be back here tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. sharp. If you're even a second late, I will be adding more weights and increasing your resistance. Seals. We gulp at our uncle's threat. He doesn't make empty threats. He is a man of his word. We head back to our compound to get some food and get some sleep. We got month of training ahead of us. Naruto page 0, v. It's the finals. Me and the rest of the genin that made it are standing in line in the Konoha arena ready to fight. I got Neji when we thought Daisuke got out of the fight unscathed. He didn't. As soon as we got home he started to cough up blood, lots of it. The doctor said he will be fine, but he is in intensive care right now. I am going to make Neji pay for hurting my cousin. The proctor says shut up, present yourselves to the spectators. I am in my orange armor, extra protection against the gentle fist. I look to the cage box. I see Gigi as well as Uncle Ichi and the cage. Mine and Neji were up first, then Sasuke and Gaara, then Shino and Kankuro, then it was Minako and Tamari. Shikamaru got a bye to the next round. I look back up to my uncle and I can see parts of his armor poking out of his robes, and his hand is always on Ryujin Yaka's hilt, ready to draw the legendary sword at a moment's notice. Eyes hardened and showing power, more power than a 37-year-old can hold. Uncle Ichi never told us how strong he really was. He says let's hope you never have to see my full strength. He's right. I hope I never have to see him at his max, but now it's time to start to fight. Me and Neji are up first. As the proctor says begin, I activate the seal that uncle taught me. It confuses the Byakugan, making it harder for a Hyuga to hit my chakra points. I can see a confused look on his face since has his Byakugan active. He says how you got multiple chakra points. I laugh and says it's a seal my uncle taught me. It makes it harder for you to hit my chakra points, so to hit them you have to guess where they are. Since you seeing more than one of them, I draw my sword and get into the stance my uncle taught me. Neji draws a kunai and we charge at each other. I have the reach advantage with my sword. Ichiro page 0, v. I smile. My nephew took to my training well. I have Lord Third shocked that Naruto knew that sword style. He asks Ichiro-sama how does he know that style. I say I taught it to him. That style has been passed down my family for generations to as far back as the founder of the Uzumaki clan. I am one of the strongest to use the style. It goes well with Ryujin Yaka, but Naruto he modified it a bit to fit his personality, and I must say I am proud of him. His mother would be too. He nods agreeing with me. Naruto page 0, v. I am dodging Neji's kunai and shuriken. I am even sending out my chakra chains out at him. I am going to make him pay for hurting my cousin. I won't kill him, but I will hurt him. We close into close combat. I sheath my sword and use taijutsu, the flaming fist style, my uncle's style. Neji grins. He thinks I made a mistake. Wrong. He goes for a strike. I reflect and counter with a fist coated in nine tails chakra. Neji goes down for a second but gets right back up and tries again. I send my chakra chains at him. He just uses his kaiden to block them. You would think he would limit the the use of his Kaden. From what I can tell it takes a lot of chakra to use. I can see it's starting to put a strain on him now. I do the seal and say multi-shadow clone jutsu. 20 clones of me appear. I hear Jonin in the stands say that's a rank jutsu as well as a forbidden jutsu. Neji can't tell which one is me since my chakra is divided between me and the clones and each clone has a chakra network. We charge at him. He uses Kaden again and gets rid of most of the clones. I hide underground while the last clone fights him. When Neji uses Kaden again, the clone uses a chakra with a kunai. When they collide there was an explosion. Neji gets up and walks over to the clone and says, as I had said, your fate was to lose to me like your loser cousin. I smirk. He hadn't noticed me yet. I lunge up and uppercut him and he lands on his back and coughs up a bit of blood. I say, as I said, Neji, I don't believe in all that fate nonsense. I believe in making my own future with my own power and protect those precious to me. When you hurt badly I could have killed you if I wanted to, but I didn't. If I had I wouldn't be any better than you. The proctor says, winner of match 1 Uzumaki Naruto. I smile. I hear Minako yell, yay, way to go Naruto. I laugh. She always knew how to get me to laugh. I get up to the others. Minako hugs me and says, thanks Naruto for teaching the jerk who hurt my brother a lesson. I say, what are cousins for? She smiles and we hug again. Ichiro page 0, v. I am proud of Naruto. He beat someone like Neji without having to use the fox's power. He now has a chance to rest and prepare for the next round. Something tells me that the case cage is up to something and I know I am not going to like it. I'll have 2 of my Anbu watch him and his guards. Ichiro page 0, v. Naruto really did well. The next fight was Sasuke vs Gaara, but Sasuke wasn't here yet, so they moved his fight to last until he showed Kakashi spreading his being late habit to his students. I'm going to have some words with him about that, or I would if he were one of my ninjas, and I guess Lord Third never talked to him about it. But the next fight is Shino Aburame vs Kankuro of the Sand, but Kankuro forfeited the match before it began, so we moved on to the next match. It was Tamari of the Sand vs Minako Uzumaki. I smile and wait to see what my niece can do against someone like Tamari. It was an almost even fight until Minako used a seal to get behind Tamari and knock her out, winning the match. I know she didn't show all she could do, but my guess is she is saving her injury and chakra for the second round. It was Sasuke's turn again and he still wasn't here yet. We were about to disqualify him when him and Kakashi appear. I shake my head. Late as always Kakashi. He asks, are we late? The proctor says, no, we were about to begin your match. Kakashi Shunchi to the stands with the others and Sasuke's fight begins. Hey guys, I'm just going to have the fight go like it did in the anime, and I'm typing this before I go to work, so I put a video in to speed it up a bit. Some people don't know how shinobi fight. Those that get to see a shinobi fight are amazed. We are stronger than normal humans thanks to chakra and extreme training. I see how arrogant the Uchiha has become. He taunts Gaara and underestimates Gaara just because he has a speed boost. I've seen Gaara fight. He hasn't even tried yet. Taijutsu isn't enough. He needs to use nin or genjutsu. Water style and fire style will work pretty well against him right now. Water will make sand heavy and sluggish while fire will turn it to glass. With a high enough fire style, my strongest would do it easily. I am pretty sure my great-grandfather would just huff and bat it away as if it was child's play, but he was the strongest Uchiha to live since the Wearing Clans era. Yes, my great-grandfather was Madara Uchiha. I do have the Sharingan, but I don't use it heavily like the Uchiha did. I even got to train with my great-grandfather before he died. I am surprised that the Uchiha learned the Chidori in such a short amount of time. He must have a high affinity for lightning style. I know Kakashi created it himself. He did it after he saw his sensei Rasengan, but he used his lightning style chakra. But Naruto didn't show all he could do. I let his godfather Jiraiya train him for a couple of weeks, so Naruto hasn't showed all he can do, only what I taught him and not much of it. But now Sasuke has a tailed beast to worry about. Shukaku, the one-tailed demon Rakan of the desert. All his hosts have had insomnia. They can't sleep cause Shukaku uses it to take control, so all his hosts can't sleep or they lose their sanity and give full control to him. Gaara looks like he has it bad. It's manly, the seal they use, but I start to feel fuzzy and warm. I realize it's a genjutsu. I use the seal and say relace. I look at the case cage. Next moment I know he has a kunai at Lord Third throat. Lord Third is trying to reason with him when he says, you were always a peace-loving fool, sensei. I knew it. It's Orochimaru. 4 Enbu-clad ninjas appear around us and form a barrier. With time I could bring it down, but that's one thing I don't have right now. My Enbu yell Ichiro-sama. I put my hand up and say I am fine, help the leaf. They nod and scatter. I say, Lord Third, I think it's time to show your former student what happens when you mess with the leaf and her allies. He nods send Orochimaru flying and removes his robes to show his armor underneath. I throw off my robes and I am in the same armor my great-grandfather wore but with the Uzumaki clan symbol on the collar and back. I have Ryuji and Yakathora my belt ready to use. Lord Third says, I see you came prepared your highness. I say I am always prepared. Lord Third, what kind of ninja would I be otherwise if I wasn't ready to defend my village at any moment's notice? He nods and says, well said. I wish you were one of my ninja. I would have named you Hokage and retired for good. This time I smile and say, how about we show our foes who he is messing with? He smirks. We stopped him from bringing 3 coffins, well the third but not the first and second. I know hoes there too. They open to reveal the first and second Hokages, Hashirama and Tobirama Senju. It's my first time seeing them. They look just as I thought they would. When they step out, Tobirama looks at me and yells Madara and charges at me. I draw my sword and block him and say, look more closely. Lord Second, I am an Uzumaki. I am Ichiro Uzumaki, king of Azukakure and an ally of Konoha. He looks at me and says, sorry, you looked so much like Madara. I reacted. I nod and say I should. He's my grandfather but I am not him. So he nods. Lord First says, you do look like Madara. The only difference I can see is your hair is red. I say I am the great-great-nephew of your wife Mito. He smiles, since that makes me his nephew. Orochimaru places kunai with tags in their heads and says, let's get started, shall. Ichiro page 0v. I am staring down. The first and second Hokage, me and Lord Third, have a fight of cage LVL combat ahead of us. There are some leaf anbu outside the barrier and a couple of mine. They're trying to find a way to bring it down. I say to Lord Third, time to see if we can work together like you hope. What are you chakra natures? He says earth and fire. You, I say I have 4. I have lightning, fire, wind, and earth. When it comes to the fire I can back you up with my wind style. He nods. I do the seals and say fire style majestic cyclone. 2 tornadoes of fire appear and head right at the past Hokage. Lord Second does the seals and says water style water shock wave. Lord Third does the seals and says earth style mud wall. Just in time the water jutsu puts my fire jutsu out and heads right at us. I say good thinking, Lord Third. He nods. I can see him a little out of breath. His old age must be catching up with him. I jump down and go to taijutsu since ninjutsu won't get us anywhere. Nato page 0v. I am following Sasuke and Gaara. Sasuke is in over his head. When it comes to Gaara he's like me but he gives his tailed beast control. Where me and Kurama work together I finally see Sasuke and Gaara. He is losing control little by little. If I don't do something the Shukaku will be here and he most likely target the leaf with all his strength, and from what I can sense Uncle and Gigi are busy with their own fights, so a Biju isn't on the top of their to-do lists. So Sasuke and I need to stop him. If I have to, I'll ask Kurama to help. I am sure he would love to kick his brother's ass. My uncle would have smacked me on my head for saying that or upped my weights. Ichiro page 0v. Me and Lord Third are in a bad spot fighting the first and second Hokage as well as Orochimaru. I got Lord Second attacking me like I was Izuna Uchiha. I draw my sword and Lord Second draws a sword where he had that. I don't know. We clash again and again. He even tried to Hiraishin slash me but I used my chakra chains and blocked it. I then spread my chakra chains throughout the barrier creating a forest of chains. I then took into them with him right behind me. By placing chakra on my feet and using my wind style I can pretty much surf on the chains. Just like on the movie Tarzan when he surfs on trees. Just to make sure for those who didn't see the movie or forgot. I can tell he's having trouble keeping up with me and I can see the aggravated look on Orochimaru's face. By the look of it it's because that I am able to evade a revived Hokage who was one of the most powerful. Orochimaru says, what are going to do? Azukage surf your chakra chains for the whole battle. I say ow, that would be nice. I don't get to have as much fun anymore as I used to, but no, I am surprised you haven't noticed yet. He says, notice what I say, the little chakra that you are losing right now. Orochimaru thinks he's right. Little by little my chakra is getting lower, but how? And to answer his question I say my chains are absorbing the chakra from everyone here except me. Lord Third and his Anbu Kimimaru says, Lord Orochimaru, we can't hold the barrier much longer. You have at most 10 minutes. He nods and says, so that's your plan, have the barrier brought down and you have reinforcements. I smile and say, not just that, it's also weakening you. If you haven't noticed, your chakra is being drained faster than your bodyguards, so by the time the barrier is down you will be too weak to fight back. I do the seals and say Uzumaki style adamantine chain sealing jutsu. The adamantine chains are stronger than the chakra chains and it's my best sealing jutsu besides the Reaper Death Seal. Once Lord Second is sealed I look over and see Lord First has been sealed by Lord Third. I say Lord Third, now our chance. He nods. I can tell he's tired. I run up to Orochimaru and seal away his arms. He can't use ninjutsu ever again, but then I hear a cry of pain and the Anbu saying Hokage-sama. I spin around and see Orochimaru's sword sticking out of Lord Third's chest. I run over to him, but it was too late. He's dead. Orochimaru uses the distraction to escape. I remove the sword and undo my chains. I say rest in peace. Hiruzen Sarutobi, third Hokage of the village, hidden in the leaves. His Anbu take him to the hospital. I go to find Naruto and tell him the bad news. Ichiro, page 0v. It's been a few days since the invasion and Lord Third's death. I have promoted both Naruto and his teammates to the rank of Chunin for the performance during the exams and the invasion. They have earned it. The Leaf Village Council is trying to decide on the new Hokage. How do I know, you ask? They asked me to be part of it since the Uzumaki clan is allies with the Leaf, so the Shinobi Council thinks I should take part. The Civilian Council thinks otherwise. It's because Naruto is the current prince of the clan and next in line for the throne, and they don't like that. I bet if they could they would remove him from his place and put Uchiha Sasuke as the heir, but they can't since they can't interfere with clan affairs. The Shinobi Council thinks that Jiraiya should be Hokage with the Civilian Council want Danzo, but Danzo is just as old and Lord Third, so he would only be Hokage for maybe 20 years give or take. Jiraiya doesn't want to be Hokage, saying it would interfere with his researcher. Old pervert, I swear I know one thing. He peeks on my little sister Mito. It won't be just me that kicks his ass, it will be Mito too. The last time she got seen naked was by me on accident, but luckily she forgave me. She left her bedroom door open when she was changing and I had just gotten back from training. I was exhausted, but I still got punched for it. We laugh about it once in a while. But back on topic, Jiraiya suggested Tsunade Senju, Lord First's granddaughter. I wonder why her. From what I can guess, she hasn't been in the Leaf since her lover Dan died back in the Second Great Ninja War, and from what I hear she thinks the Hokage's job is a fool's errand. If she were to say that in front of Naruto, considering his father was Hokage and his grandfather figure, he would try to kick her ass. But well, see, since Jiraiya is going to find her and has asked me if Naruto would go with him, I gave my permission since he is Naruto's godfather. But if Naruto goes is up to him. He is a little mad at Jiraiya for not raising him since he was a baby. Even I was mad at the old pervert not taking care of his godson just because he didn't want to give up his research. He's lucky I didn't kick his ass for it. I mean seriously. He is a 50-year-old man and acts like a boy going through puberty. But back to the story. Time skip. I have just told Naruto and he's okay with going so long as I do. I agree, plus I've been meaning to teach him the more advanced jutsu to the chakra chains. I'm sure Jiraiya is planning to teach him something as well, maybe something from his father. I'm sure he would like learning one of his father's legendary jutsu. I learned my grandfather's most powerful fire style jutsu. My mother's father, the one back at the village, is my father's father. We are walking. Naruto is asking his godfather questions about the person we are looking for. I let him answer since it's a good chance for them to bond. When we stop I go to train while Naruto starts training with his godfather. Naruto, page 0v. I say, so pervy sage, what will we be learning today? He sighs at the nickname and says, today I will be teaching you one of your father's jutsu. Let me show you. A blue ball of chakra appears above his hand. He smashes it into a tree and it is destroyed. He says it is called the Rasengan. Your father created it based on a tailed beast bomb. It took him 3 years to develop and master it and it is still incomplete. That's when we heard my uncle yell, fire style majestic destroyer flame. We look in his direction and see the light coming off his fire jutsu. Pervy sage says, come on Naruto, he may need help. I nod and we race off in my uncle's direction. When we get there it looks like my uncle is fighting a blonde lady with pigtails. Ichiro, page 0v. This lady is driving me insane. She appears out of nowhere and starts making demands of me. I know it's Tsunade. She says, I'll ask you once more, who are you and why are you posing as the king of the Uzumaki clan? I say no. Yell again. I am the king. I am Ichiro Uzumaki, king of the Uzumaki clan, and I've had enough. Uzumaki secret style hanging chain forest chains erupt from my back and try to entangle her. She dodges them or punches them away. I know of her strength. When the jutsu is done my chains have her trapped inside. I hear a girl say, Tsunade Sama. She tries to attack me but Jiraiya stops her. She says, Jiraiya Sama, why have you stopped me? He says, cause I don't want you to get in the middle of this fight. He is the king and he is powerful. He can take Orochimaru on no problem. He even fought the first and second Hokage back in the sand and sound invasion. I walk up to the forest of chains and say, to think you're my cousin. She says, how are you my cousin? I say, my great aunt is Mito Uzumaki. Your grandmother, her brother is my grandfather. Do you know of Jariusai Uzumaki? She nods and says, yes, he's one of the greatest swordsmen apartment alive and a master of the fire style. I say well he's my grandfather. I point to Ryujin Yaka on my waist and say look familiar. Her eyes widen when she sees the legendary sword and says no it can't be Ryujin Yaka, the sword of the sun. I smile and say yes he gave it to me, he wants it to be passed down the family. Now if you promise me you won't attack me I will release my jutsu. She nods and I release my chains. I say hello cousin, I am Ichiro Uzumaki, king of the Uzumaki. I am also the elder brother of Kushina. Her eyes widen again. She says now I see a resemblance to the Gaki over there. As I nod and say yes that is Naruto, her son and your godson. Ichiro page 0v. We have been spending the day with Tsunade, her getting to know me and Naruto and catching up with Jiraiya. We told of the sand and sound invasion and the death of Hiruzen as well as the council making her the 5th Hokage. I know she wanted to refuse but Naruto's words got her to change her mind. She told us of her meeting with Orochimaru in a few days, so we decided to wait and attack the Snake Sannin in hopes of killing him. As we walk and discuss how we are gonna handle him I keep noticing Shizunea staring at me. I don't know why. As they go into a restaurant to get lunch I walk around more since I'm not hungry. As I do I see some suspicious people following me. I am wearing a very expensive robe so I am guessing they are planning to try and mug me. I go down an alley. As I reach the end I see 2 of them block my path. I turn and see the rest the other way. I sigh and draw Ryuji and Yaka. They laugh thinking I am just a rich person with no training whatsoever. One charges me. I block his strike. I angle my sword and have him go past me. As he does I slash open his side. He goes down screaming in pain. I say you should really be careful who you target. Did you ever think I knew how to use this sword or do this? I do the hand signs and as I do one yells he's a shinobi. Run before they could get out of the alley. I say secret Uzumaki art chain forest of implement. My chakra chains spring forth and impales all of them killing them. I release the jutsu and walk out of the alleyway. I go back to the hotel and change into my shinobi gear and meet the others at the restaurant and tell them what happened. They shake their heads. I annoyance. You would think they would have been more careful about who they target. As we talk the local police found the scene and questioned us about it. I tell them what happened. They nod and write it off as self-defense. I head out the town walls and trained Naruto while he also practices the Rasengan. I show him more advanced jutsu with his chakra chains like the one I used on the thugs. As it gets late we head in for dinner. After we go to out hotel room as he is getting a shower there is a knock on the door. I open it and it's Shizunea. I say what can I do for you Shizunea-san? She says may I come in? I nod and let her in. She and I sit. She says well I am here cause I want to tell you something and it's that I have feelings for you. I am surprised. I say I am sorry Shizunea but I don't know how to respond. I am engaged to someone already. She looks down in sadness with tears starting to fall. I say but as a king I am allowed to marry as much as I like but we will have to take it slow. Okay? She nods and I say if you're okay with sharing me then we can start a relationship. She asks who is the person you're engaged to? I say her name is Enko Mitarashi. She nods and says I am okay with sharing. I nod and say okay but I don't want to find out you two are fighting. Okay? She nods and we stand up and I show her out. She says I know we are taking it slow but may I do something? I nod and she kisses me and runs to her room with a blush on her face. I smile once the surprise is gone. How am I gonna tell Anko? Ichiro page 0v. The day has come. Me, Shizunea, Jiraiya, and Naruto are following Tonton the pig. Tsunade gave us the slip and went to face Orochimaru herself. When we arrive Orochimaru's right-hand man Kabuto is fighting Tsunade. As he was heading at her I jump in the middle and slash at him with Ryujin Jaka. He dodges and jumps back. I hold the legendary sword out in front of me at the ready. I ignite the sword to show I am ready for a fight. I say Tsunade Jiraiya let me handle Orochimaru. Naruto you handle Kabuto. Shizunea deal with Tsunade's wounds. They nod and get into position. I say and Naruto don't hold back, go all out. He is as strong as Kakashi so don't underestimate him. He nods and says yes uncle. Orochimaru gets his sword and we charge at each other. As we exchange slashes I jump back and do the seals and say fire style great fire tornado. A large fire tornado appears and heads for him. When it clears I see he shed his skin. I jump out of the way but the genjutsu I used to hide my true appearance disappears. I now look like my grandfather. I do mean exactly. Orochimaru appears and says so your true self appears. I curse myself. He says I thought you looked familiar. I just couldn't place it. Now I know. I say yes Uchiha Madara is my grandfather. He says it makes sense your use of the fire style, your appearance, you're his exact copy. I do the seals and say fire style majestic destroyer flame. A tsunami of flame spews out of my mouth. I disappear and reappear behind him. I kick him sending him flying. Naruto page 0v. I've taken care of Kabuto. I am watching Uncle fight Orochimaru and he isn't holding back at all. Ero Sennin walk over to me and says, so your great-grandfather so happens to be the strongest Uchiha to ever live. I nod. It's a shock for me too. I knew Gigi is one of the strongest Uzumaki to ever live next to Uncle, and Uncle isn't a pure-blooded Uzumaki. Ichiro. My secret revealed, so now I don't have to hide my true strength anymore. Orochimaru says, come now Azukage, show me you Sharingan. My eternal Mangekyo Sharingan flares to life. I say behold the Mangekyo Sharingan. I charge at him using the Imperial Dragon Fist. I slam my fist on him with full force. He launches back. Orochimaru page 0, v. I can barely follow him with my eyes. His speed went up when he activated his Sharingan. I say Kabuto. He appears beside me. I say do it now. He nods and draws some of my blood. Ichiro page 0, v. I bite my thumb and go through the seals and say summoning jutsu. Orochimaru page 0, v. It's impossible. Tsunade page 0, v. That can't be. Jiraiya page 0, v. They're only myths. Naruto page 0, v. That is huge. It's bigger than Chief Toad. Shizuneya page 0, v. That is amazing. Ichiro page 0, v. I am standing on my boss summon Ryujin. Manda page 0, v. I like a challenge but this is ridiculous. Orochimaru page 0, v. How did you get a summoning contract with the dragons? Ichiro page 0, v. I say it wasn't easy. I had to earn their trust, which isn't easy, but we get better things to do. Ready Ryujin, he roars. I see Naruto and the others cover their ears from the volume of the roar. Time skip. Ichiro page 0, v. Manda had retreated from his injuries, so has Orochimaru and Kabuto. I thank Ryujin and he goes back to the Kiba Mountains. Just so you know, Kiba in Japanese means Fang Tsunade, and the others run up to me. They are all surprised at my strength, but I wasn't going all out. I am stronger than this, but Orochimaru isn't an enemy. I can go all out on Tsunade. Agrees to become Hokage and she gave Naruto her necklace. We head back to the leaf. Now how to explain this to Anko. Hey guys, sorry it took me so long to update this. Comment, vote and tell me how I did. Ichiro page 0, v. We returned to the Leaf Village after our battle with Orochimaru. People were cheering for the return of Tsunade as well as a new Hokage. Instead of going to Anko, I had to be there for a council meeting since the Uzumaki clan is an ally of the Leaf Village. As the date of her inauguration to become Hokage is set, I head to my home in the village. When I am visiting, as I walk in I see Anko waiting for me on the couch. I can see she is angry about something. I walk over and sit next to her and say, what's wrong, Heim? She says, I learned something from a friend of mine that you forgot to mention to me about the fact that you are allowed to marry has many women you want. I say, I am sorry Anko, I meant to tell you but my duties and obligations got in the way. She sighs and says, I'll forgive you, but I want to be the one to have your first child, and as long as you love us all equally. I smile and kiss her. I say, deal. She smiles. I stand up and say I must prepare for my trip back to the Whirlpool. I've been got for far too long. Plus Orochimaru managed to reveal my true self. She looks at me confused. I release the genjutsu and she gasps. She says, you look like Uchiha Madara. I say, yay, he's my grandfather. My mother was his daughter. I redo the genjutsu and have my Anbu and servants prepare my belongings for travel. I say, so Anko, let's go for a date, plus you need to meet the second wife. She grabs my arm and we meet up with Shizuneya. She took the news better than Anko did. Naruto page 0, v. I am hanging out with Hinata before I leave with Uncle. Hinata is sad about me leaving, but I have to. I am the prince of the Whirlpool country. I tell her I'll visit when I can. I even give her a scroll my uncle invented that allows long distance communication. She calms down after I tell her how to use it. We go our separate ways so she can get to a team meeting and so I can get ready for the trip home. Ichiro page 0, v. We make it back to the village and I noticed something off about it. I see my ninja acting as if an enemy was near their hands on their swords. I make it to the office and see my uncle in my chair. He looks up and smirks and says, well, if it isn't my little half-breed nephew finally home now. Well, I got some bad news. You are no longer in charge. I am, and that stupid sword be damned. I am seething in anger and say, what have you done to Gigi? He says, how do you think I was able to take over in your absence? I killed him. Now I was mad. You killed your own father, the grandfather of your children. He says he was a old weak fool letting seeing my brother's half-blood son become not just head of our clan but the king of our country, and said, "Nephew, let his nephew be crowned prince. I will not let you ruin our heritage." I shake my head in anger, a disappointment. I say, right now I am not the one ruining our heritage. I am proud to call myself an Uzumaki. I excel in all our gifts from seals to kenjutsu. And one thing you forgot, uncle. He leans forward and says, "What would that be, nephew?" I say, "When I became king I placed a complex seal array throughout the village in darkness and secret. Gigi warned me of you, and this is what he meant." I walk over to the master seal and place my hand upon it while channeling chakra through it all over the village. Red flares shoot up, my voice is amplified, and I say, "People of the Whirlpool, I don't know what my uncle has said to you to turn you against me and my family, but I do make this one promise. I sense Ninja Jonin LVL heading this way. I will stop him and retake the throne." I cut the flow of chakra and say, "Naruto, grab a hold of me quick." He grabs my arm and we teleport out. It's my own version of the Harshan seal. I have them placed all over the village. Once we teleport to our destination we run. Once we make it to the shelter I had built here in case something like this were to happen, we have swords and kunai pointed at us. I hear someone say, "Ichi ni." I look, it's my little sister Mito. I sent her back ahead of us to prepare for our return. We hug. I see a good amount of my Anbu here, almost all of them, plus my loyal Jonin, Chunin, and Jenin. Mito tells me what happened when she got back and says that Gigi is okay. A medic saved him as they fled. I run over to him and say, "Gigi." He looks at me and says, "Ichiro, my grandson, it's time to show your true self. It's time to let God of that incredible power you hold. Show your uncle what happens when he messes with those of Uchiha Madara's line as well as my own." I nod and say, I will. He smiles but falls back to sleep. I release the genjutsu hiding my true appearance and remove the seals holding back my true power. I turn to my ninja and say, "Let's get our village back." My M's flares to life. It's early in the morning. I am currently training Naruto, Minako and Daisuke. It's been 2 weeks since my uncle took control. Naruto and his cousins have been improving by leaps and bounds. They are now starting to be able to read my moves, but they still can't keep up with me. Naruto is the closest. Once he barely dodged a punch from me, just barely. When I am not training them I am training with Ryujin Yaka, trying to master the legendary sword. Gigi said, "Once be master the blade I will have fire all around me when I use it." Intel we gathered, my uncle has cut all contact with our allies. I've sent letters to them explaining the situation with Tsunade, offering assistance, which I declined, saying I will handle it myself. There is one tradition my uncle cannot refuse or it will make him look weak as a leader, and as a man he must answer every challenge for his position on the throne, but right now he doesn't have a male heir, so until he does he can cement his place as the king. Line skip. I just finished all training and now I am checking the Jonin and Anbu training. Chunin and Jenin, everyone is progressing nicely. Some Jenin have made it to Chunin level and some Chunin have made it to Jonin. We will attack once everyone is strong enough. From what I can tell my best ninja have sided with me. My best Jonin is on the same level as Kakashi Hitaki from Konoha. From what I can tell we will be ready in a couple of months. Naruto and his cousins will be low Jonin by then. I see a couple of my Anbu run over to me and say, "Your Highness, Mito-sama has been captured." I say, "What?" They say we were on patrol when we were ambushed. She was taken to the village, most likely to your uncle. We don't know what will happen to her. I say that Teme will do anything he wants to her, even go so far as to force her bear his children in hopes of having a male heir who is pure. I am going to get her. You go get patched up and have Tiger and Panther come with me since they are the best at stealth. They nod and run off. Minako and Daisuke run over and say, "Please uncle, save our mom." I place my hands on their shoulders and say, "I'll get your mom back even if it kills me." "Okay, stay here and watch our people for me." "Okay." They nod and run back to training. Time skip. Tiger and Panther are here. I give them the rundown on what happened and we come up with a plan. I can't use the seal array I have in the village for teleportation. My uncle may have had them disabled or destroyed, so we have to sneak in. I use the closest seal to get us next to the wall and we climb up using the camouflage jutsu. Only a Sharingan or Byakugan can see us and we canceled our scent so ninja hounds can't smell us. We grab the nearest ninja and probe him for info. My sister is being held in the royal chambers. I think my uncle plans to impregnate her. We quickly and quietly sneak inside and see my sister tied to the bed in only her underwear. We check to make sure it's clear and walk over to her. I hush her and quietly ask, "Did he do anything to you?" She shakes her head no and says no, but he was about to when something came up. I nod and cut her ropes. I grab her clothes and let her get dressed. Once dressed and armed we sneak out and head to the closest seal to teleport out. When my uncle says over the voice amplified seal array, "Mito Uzumaki has escaped. Find her and bring her back. She must not escape." I curse to myself. We get to the seal and teleport out. out of the village to the forest that surrounds the village. Once we get to the hideout, her son and daughter run over and hug her, glad to have their mother back. I say, from now on Mito, you stay here and help train Jenin. We can't risk that again. We got out without a fight. She nods and say yes Ni-san. I smile and hug her and say I am just glad my little sister is okay. She hugs me back and says thanks for saving me Ichi-ni. I smile and say think nothing of it Imouto, it's what big brothers do. We protect our little sisters. Now go spend some time with your kids, they were worried sick about you. Okay, she nods and walks off with her son and daughter. That was too close. I say from now on every patrol must have a sensor with you to prevent this from happening again. They all nod and get back to work. It's been a month now since my uncle took control. He is ruling with an iron fist. I see people starving, young girls and women raped and forced to bear children. They do not want young boys and men forced to either train or work. I've sent a letter to the Leaf telling Tsunade to not send Anko or Shizunea. I don't want my uncle taking them and forcing them to bear his children. Luckily he hasn't had any heirs yet. I don't think any women want to do that. He only has 2 daughters. He wants a son for an heir. Just a few more weeks and we will be ready. I have promoted Naruto, Monako and Daisuke to Jonin. They finally can face me in combat and keep up, but that's when they fight together alone. Well, they still got a ways to go. My training with Ryujin Yaka has also almost neared complete. In just a few weeks I will face my uncle and take back the hidden Whirlpool village. Gigi hasn't gotten any better. I think his age is catching up with him right now. I am arranging a transport to take him to Konoha so Tsunade and Shizunea can heal him. I head to where they're leaving from and walk up to Gigi and say get well soon Gigi. When you come home the Whirlpool will once again be back to where it should be. He weakly smiles and says be sure to teach that son of mine a lesson. I nod and say I will Gigi, I will. He smiles again. He and his guards take off towards Konoha where he will get the medical care he needs. It's finally time to start our assault and face my uncle in battle. I'm gathering my shinobi and making sure they are ready for combat. Once everyone is ready we head for the gate of the village. I see Monako and Daisuke arguing with their mother. I walk over and they say uncle, can you talk to our mother? She won't let us fight. We are Jonin now, we should be allowed to fight. I say they do have a point Mito, they're Jonin and have the strength to face combat. She says yes, but they never have seen a fight like this before. Ichi-ni, our uncle still has some of our strongest shinobi. I say yes he does, but we got the majority. They will have others watching their backs at all times and I taught them the basics of my teleportation jutsu, so should they need to pull out they will appear back here and be given first aid should they need it. Now have some faith in them Mito. Every able-bodied ninja with us is taking part, even Naruto is. Look, if it will make you feel better I'll have them in the back of the formation. She nods and says okay, but I will be there with them. I smile and say of course dear sister. I walk to the front and say now our assault begins. Give everyone you fight a chance to surrender. If they don't, kill them without mercy. Spare young children and the elderly as well as the women who aren't fighting. Once we regain control of the Whirlpool we won't have time to deal with traitors. Here's our formation. Ninjutsu users up front, Taijutsu in the middle and Genjutsu in the rear. The Genjutsu users will cloak us so we can get to the wall without being detected. The Ninjutsu users will bring it down while the Taijutsu users are to fend off the enemy should they discover us. Now in formation they gather into formation. I say now cloak. The Genjutsu users cloak us and we are off to the wall. Once we are there the Ninjutsu users use earth style jutsu to bring it down. Once it's down we swarm into the village killing every enemy. When they don't surrender this is going to be a long drawn out battle. I see my nephews and niece tearing their opponents a new one. Their teamwork if flawless as I am fighting a Anbu. Tiger says your highness watch out. I see a swarm of kunai and shuriken coming right at me. I dodge, block and deflect them away. I nod my thanks to him and see my opponent heading right at me with sword drawn. I draw Ryujin Jaka and block his sword. I push his blade aside and palmly strike him in the gut. He goes down holding his gut. I say I'll give this one chance. Surrender and prove your loyalty to me again as well as the people of the Whirlpool. If not I'll strike you down here. And now he looks at me and says I am sorry your highness, your uncle made so many promises to those who sided with him, none of which he fulfilled. He started taxing the people heavily for thing as money to food, forcing unmarried women to bear children, young boys for to train and old men forced to work. Even his own daughters weren't safe from his wrath. I do pledge myself to you and the people of the Whirlpool once again and swear to never betray them again. I nod pleased and help him up and say go to the Tiger Anbu and tell him he'll tell you where to go. He nods and runs off to Tiger. I am starting to see more and more of my uncle's men surrender and join us, mostly Chunin and Genin. I see Ryujin Yaka and move on to the next one. Within an hour all the Chunin and Genin my uncle had fighting for him are now fighting for us. I had the Genin help the young and old out of the village so they wouldn't be harmed in the fighting. I looked and see one old man who turns out is a retired ninja is fighting my uncle's ninja and he is giving them hell. I hear Monako scream mom and Clefai. What do you guys think happened to Mito? Tell me your guesses in the comments and tell me how you liked it. I spin around and see my little sister get stabbed by my uncle's head Anbu. I see red, I scream Mito. I run at the Anbu, sword held at ILVL. Next thing I knew, the Anbu's head was on the ground. I run to my little sister, she was losing blood quickly. If I didn't get her a medic and quick, she would die. I pick her up, tell Tiger he is in charge, and teleport back to base and see Tsunade there. I run to her and say, Tsunade please, my little sister is losing too much blood. She nods and has me place her on a bed, and I wait out in the main room. Shizunea and Anko are there, they comfort me. I just hug them and give them a kiss, worried for my sister, my only remaining sibling. We wait for hours when Tsunade comes out and says I've stopped the bleeding, but she has lost a lot of blood, she will need a transfusion to survive. What is her blood type? I say AB negative. She says that's a very rare blood type. Do her children have the same? I shake my head no and say no, and neither do I. The only one who did was our mother, and she has been gone for almost a decade now. The only other person that does is our uncle, but he won't help. That's when I heard someone say maybe I can help cousin. I turn and see one of my uncle's daughters, the Anbu that stayed to guard the place, appear and point their swords at her neck. I say, what are you doing here? She says, I betrayed father, he was forcing me to marry someone I didn't love just so the bloodline would stay pure. I say, how do I know you're telling the truth? She says, you don't, it's either trust me or your sister will die. I nod and say okay, but one false move and I will have you killed. She nods and follows Tsunade to where the transfusion can be done. I say to my Anbu, keep an eye on her, one false or aggressive move, kill her on sight. They bow and go to watch her. I head back out to the battlefield and see my uncle's forces in disarray. I say, come on, push towards the palace, let's end this once and for all. We push our way to the palace. I stand in front of my ninja and yell out, OMRA Uzumaki, son of Janusai Uzumaki, I Ichiro Uzumaki, son of Ashura Uzumaki, challenge you for the throne by sacred right, you can't refuse, so come down uncle and face me. He appears before me and says, very well nephew, prepare to die. I take my stance and we charge each other. I and my uncle are in a fierce taijutsu battle. We are going blow for blow, neither landing a hit on the other since we are both using the Uzumaki clan taijutsu style. I do a surprise kick and send him flying back a few feet. He gets up and dusts himself off and says, nice kick nephew, but you'll have to do better than that to beat me. I smirk and say, uncle who said I was fighting at my best? I close my eyes and focus chakra to my eyes. When I open them, my Sharingan is glowing and spinning. My uncle says, so you use the power of your mother's clan? Can't say I'm disappointed. I say, yay, but I'm not hold back anymore. You're going to see the strength that I've kept hidden for years. I draw Raijin Yaka and ignite the sword. The flames spread. My uncle says, so you use the power of your mother's clan? Can't say I'm disappointed. I say, yay, but I'm not hold back anymore. You're going to see the strength that I've kept hidden for years. I draw Raijin Yaka and ignite the sword. The flames spread all over my body. He says in shock, it can't be, you've mastered the blade. I smile and say yes, and now you will see its true power. He draws his sword. We lunge at each other and clash blades. I see he placed water around his sword with water style. Smart. We are in a bind, pushing each other, trying to gain the upper hand over the other. I angle my blade so him and his blade slide to my right and away. I slash at his side and make a deep cut along his ribs. He jumps back and holds his right side. Since Ryujin Yaka was on fire, it isn't bleeding, it cauterized the wound. As it cut, he glares at me and says, you dirty half-breed, you dare wound me. He charges again in anger. I block his strikes. He's getting sloppy due to his anger. I knew him in the gut and jump back. I stab my sword into the ground and do the seals and say, fire style, majestic destroyer flame. A tsunami of fire shoots out of my mouth and towards him. He does some seals and says, water style, great water wall. A giant wall of water appears and collides with my destroyer flame, creating a giant cloud of steam. It's so thick I can't see with my Sharingan, so I reach out with my senses and sense a barrage of kunai heading at me. I block or redirect them. I sense my uncle behind me. I spin around and block his sword. He is grinning at me like a madman. I look and see him about to apply a seal. I change my Sharingan to the M's and the rib cage of my Susanoo appears and forces him away. I get a better look and it's an advanced gravity seal. He was trying to make me heavier so I can't move. I glare and charge at him. We end up disarming each other. The only thing left is a straight up ninjutsu battle since we haven't used too much chakra. He says, not bad nephew, I'm impressed that you can keep up with me as easily as you have. I say, well, I have trained my butt off my whole life, plus when two highly powerful shinobi or your grandfathers, having those genes helps, but I got as strong as I am, but training until I couldn't want and having something to fight for, someone precious to protect and die for is when your true power emerges. And I have a whole village full of people uncle to protect. I see everyone in the village as my family and I will gladly give my life to protect from people like you. You only wanted to be king for the power and authority that came with the position, so on my honor and life I will stop you. I disappear as a flash of speed. My uncle is looking all over in a panic trying to find me. I appear behind him. I quickly pull a kunai and stab him in the heart. He screams in pain. The very tip of it is sticking out the other side. I twist it and yank it out. He falls to his knees coughing up blood that is flooding his lungs. He says, "You still were holding back, weren't you?" I nod and say, "Yes, I was. By sacred right I have regained the throne and as king of the Uzumaki clan and the hidden Whirlpool. I Ichiro Uzumaki hereby sentence you to death." Any last words? He smiles and says, "We may be enemies, but as your uncle I am proud of you, Ichiro. I don't expect you to forgive me nor our country." I pick up my sword from where it lay on the ground. I say, "Even with the pain and suffering you caused I forgive you. Goodbye, dear uncle." I swing my sword and sever his head from his body. His body falls forward and his head rolls away. I say, "Anbu." Two Anbu appear. I say, "Give him a traditional Uzumaki funeral." They bow and say, "Yes, your highness." They take his body. I head back to the village to tell all of what happened. It's been 2 months since I regained the throne. My uncle was given a traditional Uzumaki burial. I have had Naruto called and he walks in and sits down. I say, "Okay nephew, I know you have questions, so ask away." He nods and says, "Is Uchiha Madara my great-grandfather?" I shake my head no and say, "Your mother and aunt are my half-sisters. My mother died in childbirth bringing me into this world. She was the daughter of Uchiha Madara." "Why do you ask?" He says, "Well, I was thinking if I was the great-grandson of an Uchiha then I thought I could awaken the Sharingan." I smile and say, "Trust me on this, Naruto. The Sharingan is a gift and a curse. I saw many of my mother's clan fall to arrogance and pride because of it. Some became insane. I've seen very few who didn't." One is Itachi, Uchiha Sasuke's older brother. I've been trying to contact him to talk with him in person. One of my Anbu guard walks in and says, "Your highness, you have a visitor." I say, "If it is one of those traitorous council members, send them away. I may have pardoned them but they shouldn't push their luck." He says, "No sir, it's a man called Itachi." I perk up and say, "Send him in." Naruto, stand behind me with Wolf. Okay. He nods and gets up and stands next to Wolf. Itachi walks in. I say, "Welcome to Uzugakuri. Let me know if I spelled it right or not." Itachi-san. He bows and says, "It's an honor, your highness. My leader said you wished to speak with me." I nod and say, "I do." "Tell me, did you ever hear of Uchiha Madara and his daughter?" He nods and says, "Yes, I know he was a good father." I ask, "Do you know if he has any other family alive right now?" He shakes his head no and says, "Not that I'm aware of, your highness. His daughter disappeared years ago when my mom was a young woman." I smile and say, "Well, I let you in on a secret, but it doesn't leave this room. Got that?" He nods. I stand up, close my eyes. I drop my genjutsu and channel chakra to my eyes. I open them to show my Sharingan glowing with power, and I now also look like my grandfather again. I say, "Uchiha Mika was my mother. Uchiha Madara is my grandfather." He is shocked. I say, "And my mother died in childbirth when she was giving birth to me." He says, "I don't know if I can believe that or not. It's a big claim." I nod and say, "Yes, it is." I pick up the picture of me with my mother not too long after I was born and just a second or two before she died, and I showed it to him. He nods and says, "That's her all right." I say, "Now tell me what really happened the night you killed our whole clan single-handed." He sweats and says, "My father, who is the clan head, along with high-ranking members of the clan, were planning a coup to take over the whole Leaf Village. I acted as a double agent, taking what intel I could back to Lord Third one night at a meeting as one last chance to stop the peacefully failed. I was tasked to eliminate all of the clan. I left my little brother alive. I couldn't bring myself to kill him." I nod. He then says, "When my task was done I was to go on the run as a missing ninja. I joined the Akatsuki and now I also send intel on the Jiraiya-sama." I nod. I stand and walk around to him and say, "I think you missed one beside your brother. The Uchiha who you think is Madara isn't him. If it was, he'd be too old to fight. My grandfather would be 100 years old by now, so that other Madara is a fake who I don't know, but he is an Uchiha. I ran into him a few years ago when I was a kid and my father sat in this chair. So Itachi, I have an offer for you. I offer you a place as a Uzu shinobi under my command. You can leave the Akatsuki." He thinks about it and says, "Give me a few days to think it over. I'll return once I have an answer." I nod and he leaves. I sigh. I get up and say, "Come Naruto, let's get some ramen for lunch." He smiles and runs out ahead of me. I smile. He reminds me of his mother so much. You would be proud of him, Kushina, you and your husband. I run to catch up to him. I was in my office when explosions ran across the village. I jump up to the window. I yell, "Anbu!" They surround me. I say, "We are being attacked. Evac the civilians to Konoha. They will be safe there." And I want Ever Chunin to Jonin to fight back. W must force the invaders out and prepare the barrier core. They yell, "Yes, your highness." They scatter to follow my orders. Naruto runs in and asks, "Uncle, what's wrong?" I say, "We are being invaded. You and your cousins will evac the civilians to Konoha." He asks me, "What about you, uncle?" I say, "I'll stay here and command my shinobi in combat. I'll send for you." you when it's over, protect our people, okay? He nods, I smile and say good, get to the evac tunnel with your cousins, I'll see you soon, okay? He nods and says yes uncle, we hug and he takes off to follow my orders. I say Wolf, my Anbu Wolf appears, I say find out who is invading us. He bows and leaves to fulfill his orders. As I continue to coordinate our efforts, Anko and Shizunea run in and ask what's going on. I say we are being invaded. I sent Wolf to find out, you two should head back to Kanaha with the civilians, help my genin, protect them and send word to Tsunadea for help. They nod and head out. Who could be attacking up, though it's not the sound, they're still too weak from their failed invasion of the Leaf Village, so who could this be? I get my armor on and race out into the village and help any civilian I can. I see an enemy shinobi and see they are from the mist. Why would Yagura attack us? We haven't provoked him. I use the communication seal and say for all the village to hear, we are being attacked by the hidden mist. All civilians are to evac to the Leaf Village until further notice. All Chunin and Genin are to provide escort. All Jonin and Anbu are to engage the enemy. I hear my shinobi all across the village yell out yes your highness. I see the Genin and Chunin evacuating the civilians. I see Anko and Shizunea among them. I draw Ryujin Yaka and race through the enemy, slashing and burning all who faced me. When I see the Mizukage himself smirking, I run up to him and say, Mizukage, don't know why are you attacking us, for have we offended you for some reason? He says no, I'm here for the village itself. My people need more land. I say you want my village, you're going to have to go through my dead body first. My Sharingan is spinning. He smirks and says with he attacks. I charge at Yagura with Ryuji and Yaka. He uses his staff to block my slash, then uses the other end to counter. I duck and disengage by jumping back. I have to think of something. Yagura became the Mizukage at a young age for a reason. I yell out barrier core, place a barrier around me. In the Mizukage they yell back yes your highness. A large barrier forms around us. It is the same size as the barrier that the sound used during the Leaf invasion when me and Lord Third fought Orochimaru. I sigh in relief, cause now I can go all out and not worry about damaging the village to bad. I release my genjutsu that hid my true appearance. My Sharingan spins to life. I say Yagura, prepare for the fight of your life. I am Ichiro Uzumaki, son of Asura Uzumaki and Uchiha Mika, grandson of Genryusai Uzumaki and Uchiha Madara, king and cage of the Whirlpool, and I would rather die than surrender. Ryuji and Yaka flares to life as if he is agreeing with me, and the flames surround my body. I can hear the mist ninja murmurs, it's the sword of the sun. But how I thought it was lost or destroyed. This isn't good. I smirk and say I guess your ninja know of my sword. He glares and says yes Ryuji and Yaka, the sword of the sun, a blade so powerful that some say it has a mind of its own, it chooses its welders. I nod and say correct, but there is one thing that you don't know about it. He says what's that? I say the sword's true power is sealed and now you will face it. I take a wide stance and hold the sword out in front of me and yell out at the top of my lungs Bankai. 6. Naruto page 0v. I'm running back to the village with Gigi right next to me. He is fully recovered. We get through the gate and see a barrier up. We run up and I see my uncle inside facing his opponent. He has a wide stance with his sword out in front of him. I hear Gigi say no Ichiro, don't use it, it's too dangerous. I ask him what going on. Gigi, he says your uncle is about to release Ryuji and Yaka's true power barrier core. Strengthen the barrier, add heat absorber seals as well. Quick, they do it just in time. I hear my uncle yell Bankai. The wind picks up, so does the heat. I can see the barrier core straining to keep the barrier up. I ask Gigi what did Uncle Ichiro do? He says when I was younger I sealed away Ryuji and Yaka's true power. I was able to use it when needed, but the heat generated can cause severe damage to the surrounding area if left unsealed for too long. As time progressed the technique later became called Bankai. Your sword might be able to do it since it was forged the same way as Ryuji and Yaka. The dust clears and I see Uncle Ichiro still in his wide stance, but Ryuji and Yaka looks different. I'm running back to the village with Gigi right next to me. He is fully recovered. We get through the gate and see a barrier up. We run up and I see my uncle inside facing his opponent. He has a wide stance with his sword out in front of him. I hear the blade look red hot with some flames coming off of it. I say is that it Gigi? He nod and says yes Naruto, that's Bankai. Ichiro page 0v. I stand straight up. I hold my sword out and lunge at Yagura. He dodges. When the tip of my sword touches the rock it explodes. Yagura is shocked. I say while in this state all the flames that normally would surround my body are now in the blade. Once it touches something the flames rush out all at once, exploding anything it touches, so I would be careful. One touch and you're in pain or worse. I can tell he is thinking of ways to fight while avoiding Ryuji and Yaka. Naruto page 0v. Wow, I say, is that all Ryuji and Yaka can do? Gigi, he shakes his head no and says no, not even close. I've only used Bankai fully once, and that's when I fought Mika-chan's father Uchiha Madara. When he saw what my sword could do, he tried to steal it from me or even kill me and take it. Knowing how to do Bankai is one thing, but mastering it is another. It takes a decade to master it, and by the look of it Ichiro has only just learned Bankai, so he doesn't know all the techniques that comes with Bankai. I ask what is the risks in using this Bankai. He says it can raise the environmental temperature to critical levels, it could cause the Whirlpool village to be uninhabitable for decades, it also could severely burn the user, which can fuse the bones in the hand and permanently lodge Ryuji and Yaka in your hand. It can also turn the area into a massively active volcano. That's why I had the barrier core place heat absorption seals to reduce the heat relayed into the area by Ryuji and Yaka, so it is giving your uncle more time, but not by much. He must finish this soon. Ichiro, page 0, v. I can see Yagura sweat from the heat coming off of Ryuji and Yaka, but I can't use it for too long or my village will be too hot to live in for the next few decades. Yagura is dodging all my slashes. One touch and boom, he's tried using water style, but the flames are too hot and the water evaporates before it even touches me. The heat is affecting us both. I'll have to end Bankai and have the barrier removed to allow a breeze. I reseal Ryuji and Yaka and have the barrier removed. A nice strong breeze blows past us. Yagura asks, why did you stop? For I say I haven't mastered Bankai yet, so my control of it is not very good, and if I kept it active too long the village wouldn't be safe to live in for the next few decades. Plus we both need a good breeze. He nods. I grab my canteen and drink some water. I can see Yagura do the same. I look at him and I can tell something is wrong with him. What that is I can't tell. I say let's finish our battle. He nods and we take our stances. Me and Yagura charge each other again, exchanging blows. After a fierce exchange we jump back lightly, panting. The heat from Ryuji and Yaka took it out of us. I am trying to figure out what is wrong with Yagura. I look behind me and see Gigi and Naruto watching the fight. I meet Yagura back when he just became Mizukage. He didn't act anything like this. I can feel a presence nearby watching the fight. I say all free Anbu, search all nearby buildings. We may have someone controlling the Mizukage. They say yes sir. They scatter. Yagura says in a different voice, so you figured it out, King Ichiro. I say it's not too hard. I met Yagura when he first became the Mizukage. He didn't act anywhere near like this. Who are you and what are your motives? He says you won't know my real name yet, so until then you can just call me Tobi. I say are you an Uchiha? I can feel you nearby and you feel like an Uchiha. He nods and says yes, it's how I've been controlling the Mizukage. I say why have him do a purge of bloodline users, for all the villages have them and are the pride of a village, even mine, even though we are all Uzumaki. He says let's just say it's all a part of my plans. In 3 years time I will come for all the tailed beasts and use them to create a weapon to ensure eternal peace. I say peace gained through and kept by hatred and fear will never last. True peace will only be gained and kept through love and understanding of each other. He scoffs and says such a childish view and philosophy. I say maybe, but this view and belief has kept my village safe and sound throughout my rule, and so long as those that come after me keep that, then it will continue. But here is one thing you didn't know, Tobi. He says, and what would that be? Ichiro. I say I may only be half Uchiha, but I also have the Sharingan. My Sharingan spins and glows, and I say Sharingan Genjutsu release. Yagura shakes his head and looks around and says where am I? Ichiro don't know. I nod and say good to have you back. Yagura don't know. Then a look of horror appears on his face and says no, what have I done? He must have realized what he has done while under Toba's control. He says I've had my own people killed. I've killed off clans that have been in the Mist Village since the founding of it. I've caused death and destruction in my village. I've done the opposite of what a cage is supposed to do. Ichiro don't know have the 3 tails removed from me. I was shocked and say are you crazy? You'll die. He nods and says and I deserve to after what I've done. Please. I nod and say Seal Core bring me a reliquary. They bring me a clay gourd made to have tailed beast sealed inside of it. Me and the Seal Core write seal arrays all around Yagura. Once we finish I say this may hurt but I'll try to make it as painless as possible. He says I deserve to feel the pain. I nod and we do the seals and all together we say tailed beast extraction seal. He starts to scream and red malicious chakra appears around him. We begin to pull the 3 tails out of him. He screams the entire time. Once the tailed beast is removed we reseal it in the reliquary and place a cork in the opening. I walk over and pick it up. A woman with red hair and a blue dress appears and says I am Mei, the new Mizukage, and I'll take the 3 tails. I nod and had her the reliquary. She says thank you Ichiro Dono. She winks seductively at me and leaves with what is left of her shinobi. I walk over to Gigi and Naruto and say now that's over, let's rebuild. They nod and I send a letter to Tsunade informing her of the results and requests a meeting in the Leaf in a couple weeks time. I send it by Ni, my messenger dragon. I get a reply in 5 minutes saying she agrees and I plan for the trip. We are in the council chambers in the Leaf Village. They are discussing other matters. I don't pay attention until my nephew is brought up by that old warhawk Danzo. The Nine Tails vessel is the property of the Leaf and should be He didn't get to finish as I threw a keen-eye at him, just barely missing him. I say, speak about my nephew as a object in your property again, Danzo, and I will kill you. I have killing intent. Flooding the room. Most of the civilian council have fainted. The shinobi half are shaking with fear. He says, what about the three tails? I say, I returned it to the hidden mist village where it belongs. He says, you didn't keep it. You could have kept the three tails as compensation for the mist attacking you. I say, I could have, but it might have caused the mist to attack again. To get it back, there is a reason. We don't need a tailed beast, Danzo. The only reason we have the nine tails is because my nephew has it sealed inside of him. You want it back, find a way to extract it from Naruto without killing him. He shuts up. I say, see, you can't remove a tailed beast from the vessel without killing the person it is sealed in. Lady Tsunade, I suggest you keep this old hawk quiet before he causes an incident. She nods and says, Danzo, if you don't shut up, ill have you removed from the chambers. He nods and says, as you wish, Lady Hokage. I nod my thanks to her and say, I called this meeting to report all that happened during the mist invasion of my village, but by the look of it you already know most, if not all there is to know. One of the elders says, yes, but we would like to know more about your sword. I say, what about it? Just ask one of you sword experts. It's a well-known blade. She nods and says, yes, but we heard of a new ability of it. Reports say you called it Bankai. I rub my eyes and sigh. Great, they want to know about it and maybe try to get me to give my sword to the Leaf. I say, Bankai is a technique my grandfather developed with the sword when it was his. It is difficult to master and takes a good amount of time. Took him 10 years to master it. I just learned Bankai, so it will take me a bit to learn all about it. She says, what do you know of it right now? I say, the flames that normally surround me are stored in the blade. When the tip touches something, the flames rush out all at once, exploding what it touches. It also causes the blade to put out a great amount of heat. If used too long, can permanently change the climate of the area. If I were to use it here and for too long, the Leaf Village would turn into a desert. Why the sudden interest in my sword anyway? She stands and says, simple, we would like you to hand it over to us, therefore it can be given to whom we believe is worthy of such a blade. I say, and if I had to guess, it would be Uchiha Sasuke. Am I right? She nods. I start to laugh. She says with anger, and pray tell, what is so funny? I calm down and say, watch how you speak to me, elder. And second, I find that if Sasuke were to so much touch my sword, it would burn him very badly. Cause Ryuji and Yaka is a living blade. He picks who uses him. He only liked those who are loyal, brave, humble and selfless, and Sasuke isn't any of those things. If you ask me, he is more likely to leave the village at the first offer of power. I respect his clan, but him, he hasn't earned my respect. She says, how can you respect his clan but not him? I say, cause my mother was an Uchiha. They look shocked. I say, surprised? Yea, my mother is Mika Uchiha. They all get looks of shock. And Shikaku Nara says, Mika Uchiha, as in the daughter of Uchiha Madara. I nod and a civilian asks, who is Uchiha Madara? I say, him, for someone who worships the Uchiha, you don't know of the most powerful one known. How sad. Uchiha Madara is the co-founder of the Leaf Village and the namer of it. He was the only one able to go toe-to-toe with Senju Hashirama, but not many of the younger generation know of him. I saw the elder pale when I said I'm his grandson. My grandfather was known as the ghost of the Uchiha as well as god of shinobi along with Hashirama. Cause of their power at his fight with the first Hokage is what created the Valley of the End, and this should look familiar. I unsealed my grandfather's Ganbi and lay it on the table. Everyone is even more shocked. The elder asks, do you have the Sharingan? I say, since the cat is out of the bag, yes I do. I send chakra to my eyes and my Sharingan spins to life. I say, I am only half Uchiha. I consider myself an Uzumaki because my father was king before me. My mother died in childbirth bringing me into this world. Kushina and Mito are only my half-sisters, so no Naruto doest have the Sharingan. I only have it because of my mother. She says, but that means you have two. Kiki Genkai, the Sharingan and the chakra chains both have the ability to subdue tailed beast. I nod and say, yes, but I am not after any of them. I am not power hungry or prideful. I have my father's traits but most of my mother's looks. I have a genjutsu on me making me look like a Uzumaki, but if I were to remove it, I remove my genjutsu, I look like my mother with my grandfather's hair. The elders get scared and are shaking. They say, we saw your grandfather when we were kids. He scared us. I say, I bet my grandfather was a powerful man with a reputation to uphold. I've never met him personally cause he died years before I was born. My mom was just a little girl when he died. She says, how do you get along with Lady Tsunade? Then the Uchiha and Senju hate each other. I say, if I was full Uchiha then I wouldn't even be here, but I am half Uzumaki and the Uzumaki are distant cousins of the Senju. My father is the nephew of Mito Uzumaki, the wife of the Fist Hokage, making me and Tsunade cousins. My grandfather is Genryusai Uzumaki, the older brother of Mito, and he's still alive. They're shocked. I say, Uzumaki have long lives. If my great aunt didn't get sick she would still be here too. I might live just as long as my grandfather grandfather, but back to my sword. The answer is no, it is the property of the Uzumaki clan and will be passed to my oldest child when they are old enough. The elder says, but you don't have any children. I say not yet. I am engaged to both Anko Mitarashi and Shizune Kato. My wedding is in the next few weeks. Had to put it off because of the invasion of my village. We are still rebuilding. One of my Anbu appears and says in my ear, your highness, your nephew the prince needs you quick. It's about his fiancée. I nod and wave him. He goes to tell Naruto I am coming. I say standing up, well, I need to take care of a certain matter, so if you would excuse me. I walk out the door and head to Naruto. That flea-bitten mutt tried to not only kiss but rape Hinata. I am going to kill him. I charge at him and punch him square in the jaw. He flies back a few dozen feet before sliding to a stop. I sent an Anbu to get my uncle. I say, you flea-bitten mutt, how dare you force yourself on Hinata? She doesn't want you. She is engaged to me. He gets up spitting blood and says, not for long. I found a couple of loopholes. One is if I make it seem like she cheated, your engagement will end, or I challenge you for her hand in a fight. I thought the first option would be easier. I am holding a crying Hinata. I can hear Kurama begging me to let him have control so he can teach Kiba some manners. My uncle appears and asks what's wrong. I tell him and Hinata gives her side of the story. He says it's okay Hinata, your and Naruto's engagement is still valid. We both sigh in relief. My uncle says, but Kiba now has some attempted rape trouble. Now lion, get me Kiba's mother, would you please? The Anbu bows and goes to get her. My uncle says, now Inuzuka Kiba, you now have two options here, either face off against my nephew for Hinata's hand or be charged for attempted rape. Your choice, and you better hurry before your mother gets here. He starts to sweat in fear, trying to decide which option is better, get beat up by me or his mom, and a possible third, get beat up. But Hinata's father and Neji his mom shows up steaming mad and say, Inuzuka Kiba, I know you didn't just try to rape a young innocent girl just so she could marry you. As she goes to grab Kiba's ear, he says, okay, ill fight Naruto for Hinata's hand. My uncle nods and says, now Miss Inuzuka, my clan tradition states if your son wants to marry my nephew's fiancé, he has to beat my nephew as a fight. The rule are as follows: there is to be no killing, but maiming is allowed, so are weapons and any ninjen and taijutsu that they know. He has a week to prepare, so you better get him ready. She nods with an evil grin on her face, meaning she will also be punishing Kiba while training him, as she even does just to get the crap beat out of him by me. In a week she grabs Kiba's ear and drags him back, saying, you're gonna wish he had just killed you, kid. I almost feel sorry for him, almost. I say, thanks uncle, I'll take Hinata home and explain thing to her dad. He nods and says, okay Naruto, just make sure you do still train. I know you can beat him anyway, but I wouldn't hurt. I nod and say I will. He smiles and says good, and since we are in the leaf, I'll visit Anko and Shizune-chan. He disappears with something like a perverted grin on his face. I can only imagine what he has planned for them. I walk Hinata home and explain everything to her father, and she give him her side. He nods and says, well done Naruto, standing up for my daughter's honor like a true man should. I am glad to have you and future son-in-law. I smile and thank him. You stay with Hinata so I can help her calm down. It's been a week and now the day has come, time to beat that flea-bitten mutt for touching my Hinata. I am gonna beat him to a bloody pulp. I bet his mom beat the crap out of him for attempting what he did. From what my uncle told me of my mom and I did what Kiba did, I would be in the hospital for a month or two in a coma. I am at the Chunin exam arena, that is where our fight will take place. My uncle and future father-in-law are in the cage booth. After another 10 minutes Kiba shows up, but he looks like hammered shit. He's got a black eye, minor cuts and scrapes, and a brace on his leg. His mom beat the crap out of him by his mom. I'll be surprised if he can still fight. Lion walks between us and says, now you both know the rules, not killing but maiming is allowed. You are also allowed to use any weapon you have. We nod and charge each other or try to keep. His leg brace slows him down a bit. Now before you ask, where is Akamaru? He's sitting next to Kiba's mom watching. I guess he didn't agree with what Kiba tried to do and wanted him punished. As we close in on each other, he goes for a punch. I easily duck and give him an uppercut. He flies back and lands on his back. He slowly gets up. I say, what's wrong? Kiba can't keep up. I'm barely going that fast. He growls and says, shut up dope, if I wasn't already hurt I would be winning right now. That's when Sakura shows up, heals Kiba's leg, and I say, there now you ain't got an excuse. I says, Akamaru come on boy. The dog barks and Kiba says, what do you mean no? He barks more. How am I being punished? I say, you did something wrong and Akamaru knows it, so he is staying put having you get beat. So you learn you claim to be an alpha but you're not. You thought you could date or even an uncle. Sorry for my language. He gives me a thumbs up, giving me permission or even fuck any girl you want, no matter if she is single or even willing. Hinata told you multiple times she is with me, we are engaged, but you thought rapping her would break us up. It didn't, and you were caught before you did anything. So now I speed next to him and kick him into the air. After he is in the air I make some shadow clones. You're getting your just deserts me, and my clones heel kick him into the ground. He screams in pain and spits up some blood. I land in front of him and say, ready to give up Kiba? He slowly stands up and says, never. He spits more blood at my feet. He gets on his hands and feet and yells fang over fang. He spins at high speed. I easily dodge his attack attack. When he stops he is even more pissed and says, how could a dope like you be so strong? You didn't even have a clan until a few years ago. I say yay, 5 or 6 if I am right. He says you shouldn't be this strong. I say, and I wouldn't if I stayed here where my training was interfered with and my score changed. You want to know why so many adults in the village hate me so bad, why I was treated like a rabid animal who should be put down? I'll tell you and all here. The reason I am hated by many, mostly the civilians and some shinobi, is because of what happened the day I was born. I am hated for something out of my control. What happened in the village 13 years ago. Kiba, he says, the 9-tailed fox attacked but the 4th killed it. I say a tailed beast is just chakra given a solid form. You can't kill them, you can only seal them away into something or someone. If a tailed beast is sealed into a person, that person is called a Jinchuriki. The night the 4th Hokage sealed the 9 tails away, he sealed it into a baby, a newborn. That baby was me. He gets a look of realization on his face. He says, why would the 4th do that? I say, cause he didn't want to ask anyone else to sacrifice their child. He sealed it into his own newborn son. His face takes a look of shock and denial and says, no you can't be. I say, oh but I am Naruto Namikaze, son of Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage, and Kushina Uzumaki. My parents gave their lives to seal the 9 tails away inside me. Their last wish was for me to be seen as a hero for keeping the fox at bay, but instead I was shunned, beaten and almost killed on multiple occasions, cause the people of this village couldn't see past their grief and hatred. They thought I was the fox reborn, only a few didn't. Hinata is one, the owner of Ichiraku, and his daughter was another. There was also Hokage Jiji and Iruka Sensei. They saw me for who I am, not the fox. You and everyone else saw me as the fox, or what your parents told you. I ran away cause even though I had those people who cared for me, it wasn't enough. When I met my uncle and became the prince of the Whirlpool and heir to the Uzumaki clan, where I was respected and loved for who I am, not what was sealed inside me, is when I knew I found my home. The civilian council see me as a demon and a weapon, so do the elders. Hinata's father even saw me as that until I earned his respect. Now it's time I finished this fight once and for all. It's time to show the results of my private training. I make a clone and have it come close and we start to use the jutsu my father created himself. Skip to 158. And it's called the Rasengan. I can hear people say, is that Lord Foruth's jutsu once formed? I run at Kiba. This Rasengan isn't that strong, it won't kill Kiba, but it will bang him up really good. He slowly gets up and says, what's that little ball of chakra gonna do? I say as I grab a hold of his shirt and slam the Rasengan into his gut. Oh nothing, just this Rasengan. He screams in pain and then he flies off spinning. He slams into the wall and leaves a small hole. He falls to the ground. He groans once and then passes out. My uncle walks over and says, winner by knockout Naruto Namikaze. Hinata runs over and hugs me tightly. I smile and kiss her cheek and say, I told you Haim, he didn't even touch me. She blushes from the kiss and says, I never doubted you once Naruto-kun. Kiba's mom picks him up and says, thanks for teaching my son a lesson he won't forget anytime soon. I say, you're welcome Miss Inuzuka. She nods and takes Kiba to the hospital to treat his wounds, and Anbu appears and says, Naruto Namikaze and Ichiro Uzumaki, the Hokage has summoned you for an emergency council meeting. My uncle says, tell Lady Tsunade we will be there in a minute. He nods and disappears. Oh great, what do the elders and idiot civilian council want now? I and my uncle arrived at the council chambers. The only ones there are the Hokage and the civilian council. My uncle asks, if this is a meeting involving my nephew, then where is the shinobi council? Tsunade Ba-chan says, that's what I was wondering, if this meeting is about Naruto the shinobi council should be here as well since he is a shinobi. Sakura's mother stands up and says, the shinobi council isn't needed for this meeting. We have heard that our former Jinchuriku is actually the son of our 4th Hokage, and as such, we demand his return as well as a request he is placed into the CRA. My uncle turns red with anger and says, he is a shinobi of the Whirlpool now. He's also my heir, and being a shinobi of a foreign village, he is outside of your control. Ba-chan nods in agreement and says, Ichiro is right, Naruto is no longer a part of the Hidden Leaf. We have no pull on him anymore, and if he was, the CRA is still his choice. I nod at Ba-chan in thanks. That's when Danzo appears and says, I have an idea from what I have read. Should Naruto or Ichiro be challenged to remain in the village? Should they lose, Naruto stays. If either wins, Naruto gets to choose. I look to my uncle and see he is, even more, enraged. He stands and says, that's clan secrets. Danzo, where did you read that? Danzo says, an old scroll left by Mito Uzumaki, the wife of our first Hokage. My uncle says, I don't believe you, we don't write down our secrets to leave them in a foreign village for outsiders to read. Danzo reaches into his robes and throws a scroll at my uncle. He catches it and reads it and says, This is Aunt Mito's handwriting. I'm shocked she would do this. I see Danzo smirk thinking he's won. My uncle sighs and says, okay, who's fighting when and where? Danzo says, Yuichiro will fight our strongest shinobi. I believe Naruto knows him. He's known as the copy ninja. My eyes widen in surprise. He has to fight Takashi-sensei. My uncle nods and says, okay, Danzo, challenge accepted. Now when and where? He says, tomorrow at noon, Chunin exam arena. If you a minute late you lose by default. My uncle nods again and says, then the same goes for Kakashi as well. Danzo nods in agreement. The meeting ends. We get up and head for our home in the village. I ask my uncle, why is there such a rule as that, uncle? He says, it was put in place by my great-grandfather during the end of the clan war era. Aunt Mito was sent to the Leaf to marry Hashirama. But someone in the clan liked her a lot, so they created this rule. As a way to make things seem fair. The man lost to Hashirama, no surprise there, and the rule has remained since. I say, but uncle, can you beat Kakashi-sensei? He smirks and says, Naruto, I'm a cage-level ninja and the grandson of two very powerful shinobi. I'm sure I can stand toe-to-toe with him. I smile. I have faith in my uncle. I've seen him go almost all out. I just haven't seen Kakashi-sensei go all out, so I'm a little nervous. I do not want to return to this village. As a Leaf shinobi, my uncle ruffles my hair and says, come on, ramen on me, all you can eat. I smile and yell in happiness. I wake up at 8 and go downstairs and see Anko and Shizuneya making breakfast. Shizuneya turns to me and says, morning Naruto, did you sleep well? I nod. As I yawn, I sit at the table and see my uncle there reading the paper while drinking coffee. I say, you ready, uncle? He lowers the paper and says, yes, I'm ready. I'll show this village to not underestimate our clan. Kakashi may be AA rank shinobi, but I am a cage level shinobi, but I won't underestimate him either. That's how you get killed. It can get you killed. Watch the fight closely, Naruto, you can learn something from it. I nod. That's when Shizuneya and Anko place our breakfast on the table. We eat. Once we are done, uncle and I do the dishes and he runs up to get a shower and get dressed. Anko goes with him to help him into his armor. After an hour and a half later, he comes down in his armor. It's like the armor that Madara and Hashirama wore, but his is a bright red where theirs was a dark red. His hair is in a high ponytail, his sword in his belt along with a kunai and shuriken pouch on his hip and thigh. It's almost 11:30. He says, come on Naruto, let's get going. We don't want to be late. I nod and we head for the arena. We get there at 11:50, 10 minutes early. Bachan and Danzo are in the cage booth with Hayate being ref. Uncle says, go join Lady Tsunade and Naruto. I'll do some stretching to get ready. I nod and head up to the cage booth and sit next to Bachan. She pats my shoulder and smiles. I smile back. Kakashi shows up a minute till noon. Hayate says, okay, the rules are as follows. Killing isn't allowed. You may maim. You can use any weapon you have as well as any ninjen or taijutsu. If I see any of you about to pass out or die, I will end the fight then. And they're got it. They nod. Hayate nods and say okay, and Hajime, my uncle, Dot and Kakashi jump back from each other and start to throw kunai and shuriken at each other. I ask Bachan, what are they doing? Bachan, she bends down a bit and says they're felling each other out for any possible openings. These are high LVL shinobi. They both know if they underestimate their opponent it can cost them the fight. I nod and keep watching. Ichiro page 0, v. Me and Kakashi stop throwing kunai and shuriken at each other and run at each other and engage in taijutsu, each of us trying to get the edge over the other. I go for a low leg sweep. Kakashi jumps over and goes for a kick to my head. I flip back to avoid the kick. He lands after the missed kick and looks at me and says, I am surprised, Your Highness. I didn't expect you to be able to fight this well. I say, that's what happens when you underestimate a Uzumaki. I may be a king, but I am not sitting on my ass all day. I set 5 or 6 hours a day to train and stay in shape so I don't get rusty. He nods and does a set of seals and say, water style water dragon jutsu. I big water dragon forms and heads right at me. I do the seals and say, Uzumaki secret art chakra chain wall. My chakra chains spring forth from my back making a wall and blocking the water dragon, but Kakashi appears next to me and shoves his chidori into my left side, just missing my spleen. I grunt in pain. I grab his arm and punch him full force in the face and he flies back into the arena wall. I drop to a knee in pain. I spit up some blood. Naruto page 0, v. I lean forward on the railing in worry. Kakashi hurt my uncle. I yell out uncle. He holds his hand up at me in a way to tell me he's fine. He stands up and uses his fire style to sear the wound closed. I hear him grunt in pain. He will need medical attention after this. That was a low blow for Kakashi to use his most deadly jutsu in a non-lethal fight. Uncle spits up a big blob of blood. I can hear him groan in pain. He draws Ryuji and Yaka as Kakashi charges at him again with a kunai. Uncle sidesteps and slashes at Kakashi's right side and he passes. I see blood come out as Kakashi grunts in pain and holds his side to stop the bleeding. Unlike with Uncle Omura, Uncle didn't have Ryuji and Yaka ignited, so it didn't cauterize the wound. I hear Uncle say that is a serious wound there, Hitaki, you should get that looked at. Ichiro page 0v. He looks up at me with a glare. I ask, why are you fighting this hard for a kid you didn't even care for? I can tell you're fighting not just because you were ordered to. As he glares, he says, I am fighting this hard is because he is the son of my teacher. If I had known earlier I would have treated him better and trained him better. I say you should have known from the beginning. I've seen what Lord Fourth looked like, and before I did the blood bonding with Naruto making him a full Uzumaki, he looked exactly like Lord Fourth. He has my sister's personality, but he had his father's looks. You knew Lord Fourth well enough to see the resemblance between the two, but you still choose your other two students over him, only teaching him chakra concentration and some teamwork exercises. If I was your Kage, I would have demoted you back to Chunin, if not Genin, for showing favoritism with your students. Both of those Genin of yours are arrogant, full of themselves. The Uchiha thinks he's better than anyone just because of what clan he's from. My grandfather and mother are from his clan, and I am not strutting around like I am the center of the world. That's why I know if he ever touched Ryuji and Yaka it would burn his hand off. I know he still wants the sword, but you neglecting Naruto for him, what possible reason do you have? He looks down in shame and says, I made a promise to a friend of mine that I would look after him. I say no. Yell, that is no excuse for slacking in your duties as a teacher. You're supposed to teach all your students equally, not who they are and what clan they're from. I am sure if Lord Fourth were here and saw how you neglected not just one of your students but his son as well, he would be very disappointed in you. I am sure you're an excellent ninja, but you're a lousy teacher, and right now you're trying to make a boy who has found happiness in his mother's clan go back to the place that treated him like garbage and are now going to use him for the political power he now holds and use him to make a clan by forcing him to get girls pregnant. I put the tip of my sword under his throat and say, what's it going to be? Hitaki, yield and let Naruto go back to where he's happy and treated for who he is and not what he holds, or keep fighting and maybe force him back here where he will loathe you for the rest of your in his life. He only cares for a few people here and you're not one of them. He looks down again. He's lost a good amount of blood from his wound. He looks at Hayate and says, I surrender. Hayate nods and says, winner by forfeit Uzumaki. Ichiro. I hear Naruto yell in happiness and he jumps down and hugs me and says, are you okay, uncle? I smile and ruffle his hair and say, yay, I'll see a doctor about my injury now. Then let's go. I need to get it looked at before it gets infected or turns septic. We head to the hospital. Once I was healed and given antibiotics, we head back to the Uzumaki estate. Me and Uncle returned to the hidden whirlpool. Once we arrived, we see pervy Sage waiting in Uncle's office. He says, Jiraiya of the Sannin, what can I do for you? He says, I've come to make a request of you, your highness. Uncle says, if it's to return Naruto to the leaf, you can leave now. Pervy Sage shakes his head and says, no, I wouldn't dare destroy my godson's happiness. I am here to request that I take him on a training trip to get him stronger and prepare him for the Akatsuki. I am sure you've been informed of them. Uncle nods and says, yes, I have. Uncle sits at his desk and I stand behind him. He says, okay, for how long will this training trip last? Pervy Sage says 2.5 to 3 years. By the time we are done, he will be able to take just about anyone. Uncle gets a thinking face and says, what do you think, Naruto? This does involve you and you should have a say in it. I say 3 years is a long time to be away from home, not to mention that I won't get to see Hinata very much. Pervy Sage says, I can arrange a way for you to visit her from time to time if you'd like. Tsunade agrees with the trip, but it's up to you and your uncle since you're not a leaf shinobi anymore. Uncle says, it's your choice. Naruto, with Jiraiya you can learn more about your father and maybe more of his jutsu, maybe even his flying thunder god jutsu that gave him the name the Yellow Flash during the Third Great Shinobi War. One say, will I be able to see your wedding before I go? He looks at Pervy Sage and Pervy Sage says, we can wait until after, but we will need to leave shortly after the wedding. I think it over and say, I'll go. Pervy Sage smiles and Uncle nods and says, okay, it's agreed. You'll leave after my wedding to Anko and Shizunea and you'll be the ring bearer. Hinata can be the flower girl. I'll contact her father father and see about them coming here. For now Naruto showed Jiraiya a hotel he can stay at. Oh, and Jiraiya pervy sage says yes your highness. Uncle says I will have Anbu posted outside the hot springs and if you're caught you will be punished. Am I clear? Pervy sage nods quickly and says is crystal your highness. Uncle nods and says good, now run along Naruto, I need to get caught up on all this paperwork that piled up while we were away. I nod and show pervy sage to a hotel called the Red Whirlpool. It's one of the best in the village. 3. Ichiro page 0, v. This training trip could be good for Naruto. He gets to spend time with his godfather and learn about his father. I say Rhino, and Anbu wearing an Rhino-styled mask appears and says yes your highness. I write a letter and hand it to him saying have this delivered to the head of the Hyuga clan as soon as possible. You're my fastest. Anbu makes sure only he reads it. He takes the letter and says hi your highness and disappears. It should only take him a day to 2 days to reach the leaf. I look at all the paperwork and curse under my breath. Danmu paperwork. Naruto page 0, v. After I showed pervy sage to the hotel and got his room, he asked for a restaurant to get something to eat. I show him to the best barbecue place in the village. He says barbecue, that's a surprise coming from you. I though you would have showed me to a ramen stand. I say Touré, I am addicted to ramen but I know not everyone will like it as much as I do. He nods and says well I could go for some ramen, so how about you show me the ramen stand here, and are they as good as Ichiraku? I say yay, they are pretty good, not as good as Ichiraku but pretty close. I show him to the ramen stand called Water Dragon Ramen. It's a stand styled like Ichiraku but a wooden dragon on top holding the sign. We walk under the curtain and I say Yamamoto Jiji Kenji Ni-san. You hear a 20-year-old appears from the back and says oh Naruto-sama you're back, what can I get for you? I say Kenji Ni-san I told you no formalities, you know I hate those. He laughs and says sorry can't help it, you are Lord Ichiro's heir, so what can I get for you and your friend here, or would you like to try our new specialty Fire Dragon Ramen? San got a new kind of pepper to make spice out of and he had to make a new kind of ramen for it. I say ill, try it, how spicy is it? He laughs and says why do you think we call it Fire Dragon Ramen? For some reason only shinobi that use fire jutsu can take it, but okay, one fire dragon. And what would your friend like? Pervy sage says ill, try the fire dragon as well. Kenji nods and says okay, it comes with a large glass of milk, trust me you'll need it. I ask what's the pepper called? He says it's called the Amaterasu Reaper pepper, supposedly it's the hottest pepper in the great nations. He tells his father what our orders are and he asks what kind of milk, regular or chocolate? I say ill, take a chocolate. Pervy sage says ill, have regular. Half an hour later. 3rd page 0, v. A couple of loud screams heard and large jets of fire can be seen, and Naruto and Jiraiya chug down their milk, but it doesn't help. They run around the village screaming for help to end the burning pain from eating the ramen. Naruto page 0, v. I yell how can anyone eat something that's spicy? Pervy sage yells I don't know kid, but let's get back so we can pay. I nod and we get back. Kenji is laughing at us. I ask after I drink another glass of milk who can eat that, it's so spicy. He says your grandfather for one can. Naruto, I say Jiji, my great grandfather Genryusai Uzumaki, who is over 100 years old. He nods and says yay. He says it's not spicy at all. Me and my father were surprised at that. My father, though he messed up until he tried it, he reacted the same way you too did. I vowed to never eat it. I can't handle spicy food anyways, so if I ate that I would be miserable for a while. Anyway, here's the bill. I see the bill, it's $20, so it's 10 for each bowl. One shrug and one can tell it's because they had to import the pepper they used for it. I take out my 10 and pervy sage takes out his. Once we paid we left. He says hey Naruto. I say what is it? Pervy sage, he says could I meet your great grandfather? I've heard a lot about him and I would like to meet him. I nod and take him to meet my great grandfather. Him and pervy sage talk for an hour while also drinking some sake. Just before we leave, Jiji says hold on Naruto, I have a surprise for you. He goes to his closet and pulls out what looks to be an old set of armor. He says this was mine when I was your age, you don't have to wear it but I would like you to have it. I look at it and it looks like a set of old samurai armor. I yell how can anyone eat something that's spicy? Pervy sage yells I don't know kid, but let's get back so we can pay. I nod and we get back. Kenji is laughing at us. I ask after I drink another glass of milk who can eat that, it's so spicy. He says your G. Just imagine the Uzumaki clan symbol on the breed plate. Gigi seals it into a storage scroll and hands it to me. I say thanks Gigi, I'll take good care of it. He smiles and says please do Naruto, it's almost as old as I am but I know you will take good care of it. I smile and me and pervy sage leave. I say so how was it meeting my great grandfather? Pervy sage, he says it was an honor. Yukao, what he was called when I was a kid. I ask what pervy sage says he was called the swordsman of the sun. It was said the flames he created were just as hot as the sun, no fire style user could match him. I nod and say I am not surprised considering that my uncle could be getting close to that himself. He nods and says well it's late, I'll turn in for the night, I'll see you later Naruto. I nod and Pervy goes into the hotel and I head home. I wake up the next day at 5 in the morning and do my morning workout. Once I was done by 8 I head home and see uncle is awake and reading a newspaper while drinking coffee. He looks at me and says oh morning Naruto, how was the workout? I say great, especially with that cool morning air. He nods and says well things are gonna be pretty busy today and tomorrow with the wedding. Anko, Shizunea and Hinata should be here by noon or a little later. Do you have your kimono ready? I nod and say hi, I set it out last night. He nods, finishes his coffee and says well I am heading to work, if you need anything Naruto just come let me know. Okay, I nod and say hi uncle. He smiles and heads out. I make my breakfast and watch some morning news. Uncle's wedding is all over it. I am not surprised. I am sure when a daimyo is getting married it's all over the news, so with my uncle being a king his is too. Ichiro page 0v. As I walk into the office my secretary walks up and says your highness, here is the guest list for your marriage in a couple of days. The fire and water daimyo are coming with their families as well as the Hokage, Kazakage, and the Mizukage. The Raikage hasn't responded yet and the Tsuchikage said he can't come, his back is acting up again. I nod, he's almost as old as my grandfather so I understand. I am not expecting the Raikage to appear, he's not one for ceremonies. I say okay, who else? She says the queen of the land of spring is also attending and is bringing something as a sign of thanks for our help in getting her back on the throne. The priestess of the land of ogres is also coming and bringing her daughter Shion with her. I sit at my desk and say okay, what's my schedule for today? She says at 10 you have to get fitted for your wedding kimono, at 11 you have to see about the location of the ceremony as well as the food for the reception, you have lunch at noon, you have a meeting with someone at 1. They didn't give a name but said they knew you since you were little. That's odd. I ask that's a bit sketchy, don't you think? What if they are here to kill me? She says she was checked out before the meeting was arranged, she is harmless, plus I have arranged Tiger and Fox to be on guard for the meeting. I nod, they're my strongest Anbu aside from Lion who is on leave right now for his hard work, he's earned it. Did she say how she knew me? She said she knew your father very well, she didn't give much info. I nod and say okay, what else? She says after your meeting at 2 you have to see about decorations and color schemes which will match your and your bride's kimonos. At 3 you will have an hour to train and bathe. At 4 your grandfather asked for you, said it was something he wants to give you. At 5 is your dinner and the rest of the day is you filling out paperwork. I nod, I knew I was going to be busy. My secretary says tomorrow morning you have to greet the visiting cages and daimyo. I nod and say okay, let's get started shall we? It's already 9. She nods and heads out. I say Yuki. She turns and says yes your highness. I say good work. She smiles and says thank you your highness, I'll bring you some of your paperwork. I nod and she closes the door. I should give her a raise, she's helped me since I became king and she helped my dad out when he was on the throne. Naruto page 0v. I'm showing Pervy Sage around the village as we are. He asks so how has life been with being a prince? I smile and say it's a lot better than back at the Leaf. I am actually treated with respect, not hatred over something that is beyond my control. I made some friends here and I am not attacked on almost a daily basis. Big shocker when I did find out, though I thought I didn't have any family, but now I have a family and a clan and it's good to know I had parents that loved and cared for me. He puts his hand on my shoulder and says that they did Naruto, that they did in fact. Did you know they got your name from a character from my first book? It's called Tale of the Gutsy Ninja. It was your father's favorite book, though it wasn't my best seller. Here he reaches into his pouch and pulls out a book and hands it to me. He says here it was your father's, I am sure you would like it and I know you're not gonna read my other books. I nod, uncle would kill me and Pervy Sage if he found out. I say thanks Pervy Sage. So will you attend my uncle's wedding? Tsunadea Baan is along with the Mizukage and Casecage. He nods and says yes I am, in fact some friends of mine are as well. Ichiro page 0v. It's 1 and my secretary lets the woman in. She is about 5 feet 6 with a slender but slightly curvy frame. From what I can tell she's about in her late 40s to early 50s. I say so what can I do for you miss? She says Uchiha Mika. I scramble back in shock. This is my mother, but how? I say no you can't be her, you can't be my mother. I was told my mother died giving birth to me. She says I asked your father to tell you that I did it to protect you. My father has a lot of enemies and I didn't want you to be hurt because of me. I keep my distance if she is my mother. I say but why stay gone for almost 30 years? Why didn't you come back? You know what I went through not knowing what it's like to not have a mother. Anger and sadness start to build. I can feel tears start to build up. She walks closer and says cuz I had to make sure you could handle yourself in a fight. I say almost on the verge of crying and yelling at her, or I wasn't worth your time to raise yourself. She says, no son, I wanted to raise you, I really did, but I had to take care of a few people that would have tried to kill you if they ever found out about you. I ask, but why now after 30 years on the eve of my wedding? She says, the last person turned out to be harder to track down than I first thought. He moves around too much. I say, you could have raised me and kept me a secret. Father did until I was 2. My tears start to fall. I say, so tell me the truth, why didn't you return sooner? She looks down and says, by the time I took care of the last person it was already 15 years for you. How would you react then to your supposedly dead mother coming home? I yell, that's still no excuse. My Sharingan flares to life. She says, you have the same Sharingan as my father. I deactivate my Sharingan. I sense my Anbu ready to jump in. I sit back at my desk. She walks around and kneels down in front of me and says, I know you are mad, upset, and probably confused, but I did what I did to protect you cause I love you, Sochi, and I am very sorry how it made you feel growing up not having me around, but I am here now and in time for your wedding. The door to my office opens and it's Gigi. He sees my mother and says, so you finally come back, Mika. He walks in and says, I thought you caused the poor boy enough harm. She glares at him. He glares back. She says, you know good and well I didn't mean to cause Ichiro any harm. Genryusai-sama. He says, how do I know that? His father died when he was 10 and I had to take care of him after that, and I had to retake the throne until he was old enough to do so. I trained him to the best of my abilities. He figured out how to use the Sharingan on his own, and for a time he was abused by his stepmother. She says, what stepmother? Grandfather says his half-sister's mother. She found out he was half Uchiha and demanded that his position for the throne be taken and given to her eldest daughter Kushina. She tried multiple times, but Ichiro's father shot her down. Very time it got to the point that she decided to abuse him as a way to force him to hand his position over to his sister. I remember that my stepmother had the same mindset as my uncle back then and thought since I wasn't full Uzumaki that I didn't deserve my spot for the throne. She would beat me almost daily trying to force me to give my birthright to Kushina. Grandfather says once I retook the throne I had her banished for abusing my grandson and told her if she were to ever return she would be executed by me personally. So why exactly did you decide to return now after almost 30 years and on his wedding? She says, cause he is my son. And grandfather slams his walking stick into the floor and says, you're gonna need a better excuse than that, whelp. I should have the Anbu come in and remove you. He points his walking stick at me and says, this boy no man has faced many hardships in his life. He's fought cage, he's dealt with abuse and prejudice cause his stepmother revealed his Uchiha heritage to the village and many of the older population was calling for his title as heir to be taken and given to his sister. He almost died on multiple occasions for his village and family. When he made his first kill at 12 he didn't have any of his parents to look to for comfort, only me. He couldn't go to his sisters for they didn't know what he was going through. He visited your grave every day and would stand there talking to it for hours. Yours and his father's. Then came the destruction of our village. Once everything calmed down we returned and rebuilt and he took the throne, his birthright, and continued to grow stronger not just in power but in knowledge and wisdom as well. He did all of this without you and his father, so why now did you decide to return? My mother stays silent. Grandfather slams his walking stick into the floor and yells, answer me, well, before I have the Anbu removed you from this village. As my mother and Gigi stare at each other, Gigi waiting for her answer, both Anko and Shizunea walk in. They look back and forth between my mother and grandfather wondering what is going on. I look at thee and say, Anko, Shizunea. They look at me. I say hello to someone I thought was dead. My mom. They looked shocked. Shizunea says, but how? I thought she died giving birth to you. I say that's what I thought, but apparently not. She could have been here for the last 15 years of my life. She now decides to return for our wedding in a couple of days. Me and my grandfather are deciding if she gets to stay. I stand and walk around and give Anko and Shizunea a kiss and say, but it's good to see you too. My mother asks, why did you kiss them both? I say, cause I'm marrying both of them. Besides, I doubt you should even be asking about it since my life isn't all that important to you for you to be gone for all of it until now. I can tell she's trying to figure out to be sad or angry as she is. Naruto and his cousins come in and see what's going on. He asks, what's going on, uncle? I say, Naruto, Minako, Daisuke. Say hello to my mother. They get either shocked or confused. Naruto, page 0, v. I was shocked to hear what my uncle told me. His mom is here. I look at her and she does look like uncle but with straight hair. She looks at us. She says, hi, I'm Uchiha Mika. I'm Ichiro's mother. I say, I am Uzumaki Naruto and these are my cousins Minako and Daisuke. She smiles and says, it's nice to meet you three. I know this confusing for you three. We do an anime sweat drop and think, yay duh, it's confusing. She says, when Ichiro was born I set off to take care of some people that were a threat to him because of who my father is. I spent the next couple of decades hunting them down and killing them them the last person took longer than I hoped. That's when uncle slams his hands on his desk and says you still could have came back after that but you decided to stay away until now, so tell me why I shouldn't have you removed from this village and forever banished under threat of execution. I am shocked and say, uncle, I understand that you are angry. He says, I am more than angry, Naruto, I am fucking furious. How would you react if your mother was to walk in right now after being gone all your life? I say I would be upset at first but I would be happy to see her and would want to spend time with her. He looks down and says, I am rubbing off on you, aren't I? I smile, yay he is. I see Gigi smile as well and say, yes, wise words for someone so young, Naruto, just like your uncle. He does have a point, Ichiro, I understand your anger, I am angry as well but you should give her a chance. He looks up and says, okay, but mother. She looks at him and says, yes, Sochi. He says, I'll be having you watched like a hawk. You may be my mother but this is my village and I will have you thrown out if you turn out to be a threat. Am I clear? She nods and says, hi Sochi, thank you. She walks over to him and hugs him. He stiffens at first but hugs back. She says, you turned into such a fine young man, I am proud of you. I see uncle eyes fill with tears and hugs her tighter. I smile. I see Anko and Shizune and Nate-chan smile as well. I set my mom up in the guest room of my house and as the day goes on I go about doing the other wedding preparations with Anko and Shizunea. We chose the food, the location of the ceremony and the reception. Once that was done I was back in my office doing paperwork as my secretary comes in and says, Your Highness, the daimyo and Kage are here. I nod and head out to meet them. I bow to the daimyo and shake the Kage's hands. I show them around the village. I take them to the best restaurant in the village for dinner and set up rooms in the best hotel in the village. I made sure they were welcomed and comfortable. Just being a good host. I am also hoping to make an alliance with the Mizukage, hence why I invited her and the others but they didn't come. I knew the Raikage wouldn't come. At least the Tsuchikage had a reasonable excuse for not coming. As it gets late I walk home. As I walk in I smell something good cooking. I walk into the kitchen and see my mom cooking with Shizunea helping her. Oh, say that smells good. What's for dinner? My mom says fried fish with rice and miso. I ask what your favorite was and this was Anko and Shizunea-chan told me. I smile. I hug my mom and thank her. I kiss Shizunea and Anko. My mom jokingly shoos me out of the kitchen. I go to the living room and watch TV with Naruto. I asked him how his day was. He said it was great. He spent the day with Hinata. He sounded a little annoyed about something. He said that jerk Kiba came here with her and he's still trying to get with her. The butt kicking I gave him didn't teach him anything. If anything, it made him more determined. I asked Neji to watch him since he's here as her guard. I told him everything and told me he would beat Kiba so bad he wouldn't be a Nina anymore. Should he try anything? I sigh. That kid has some serious entitlement issues. If he thinks he can have any girl he wants regardless of their relationship status. I said okay, should he try anything I will have him removed from the village and banned. Did you tell Hinata's father about this? He says I didn't have to. He saw the whole thing on their way here. He was about to when they arrived, not to mention that I was about to do something to him as well. Him and Kiba share a room in the hotel to keep an eye on him. Minako has Hinata staying with her so she is away from him, which we are both grateful for. Before Kiba went to his room I told him if he tried what he tried to do before I beat his I say go on, I'll allow it. He says I'll beat his ass so bad I will leave him close to death and he will learn to not touch my Hinata. I smile, proud of him for protecting his fiancée. I say good, I'll let his mother know and tell him I told her. It seems that she is the only person he is scared of. He smiles and nods. That's when my mom says dinner is ready. We go to the table and eat. It's really good. It's the first time I've eaten my mom's cooking. As we eat there is a knock on the door. Naruto gets up and answers it and it's Hinata. She says can I come in please? And quick, Kiba is harassing me again. I nod and she comes in and sits down. That's when someone bangs on the door. I walk to the door and open it and it's Kiba. He says is Hinata in there? I say yes, but you're not welcome here, Gaki. Now get lost. I go to close the door. He stops it and says I am not going anywhere without Hinata. I say listen here brat, this is my village, this is my home, so unless you want Anbu after you, you'll leave right now. He tries to slip past me. I kick him dot and he flies out onto the ground. He looks at me with hatred. I say choose your next move carefully brat. I am not just the head of the Uzumaki clan, I am also the king of this country. You attack me, your life is forfeit. He draws a kunai. I sigh and shake my head. He charges at me going for a stab when Naruto jumps in front of me and punches him in the face and sends him flying back. Kiba grunts in pain as he gets up. Naruto says it's one thing if you attack me dog breath, but I will not let you lay a hand on my uncle and you're sure as he'll not getting near Hinata. Kiba says tough talk from a clanless dead last. You don't deserve Hinata, you're not worthy of her. Naruto says we settled this weeks ago. Kiba let it in her go cause if you so much as look at Her ill leave you begging for breath he scoffs. I look inside and see Hinata hiding behind Anko almost in tears. I say looking back and say Inuzuka Kiba, if you proceed I will contact your cage as well as your mother. I call a messenger hawk and start to write a letter to his mom since Tsunade is in the village for my wedding. I say you have until I send the hawk to stop. This scroll has a reverse summoning seal on it and it will bring your mother here. He starts to look scared but then hides it and says you don't have the balls to. Naruto punches him again and says watch how you talk to my uncle. Dog breath. Kiba glares at Naruto as he does. I send the hawk and I say you have 3 hours to stop cause once your mother is here I am sure you can guess what she will do. He gets really scared and charges at Naruto with a kunai. Naruto draws his sword and they fight. I have Anbu keep the street clear so no bystanders get caught in the crossfire. Naruto page 0, v. Dog breath doesn't learn a thing as we clash kunai against sword. I can see his frustration at how easily I am blocking or deflecting his attacks. He says a clanless dead last doesn't deserve what you have. I laugh and say oh and you think you do. You're the heir to one of the clans of Konoha. I am sure you can easily get any girl you want that is single but you want Hinata who is with me and we are engaged. He yells she was forced into the engagement to you. She didn't have a choice. That's when my uncle says not true. Me and Hinata's father gave them both the choice. They agreed so she isn't being forced into anything. Kiba says so you say. That's when Hinata pokes her head out and says surprisingly without stuttering it's true Kiba, I love Naruto and I am happy to be marrying him when we are older. He says they must have brainwashed you to say that Hinata Naruto is a clanless dead last loser whose own mother didn't love. He didn't finish his sentence when Naruto slashes him with his sword and kicks him back. Naruto says don't you dare talk about my mother, you don't know her. I say be careful how to speak about my sister as well. Gaki. He gets up holding his sword wound groaning in pain. He says ill talk how I want. She probably was just some street whore who would open her legs for anyone. I see red chakra engulf Naruto. I say you shouldn't have said that Kiba cause now you are in even bigger trouble. He scoffs and mockingly says what's wrong dead last, did I touch a nerve? I say you did more than that Kiba. You see Naruto knows who his mom is. I told him all about her. She was Uzumaki Kushina, my little sister, and now you just screwed yourself over. Naruto charges at him in rage and anger as Naruto beats the living crap out of Kiba. His mother appears and sighs and asks me what did my son do now. I tell her everything he did and says let him get beaten but not killed. This is his punishment. I am sure if Naruto's mom was here she would beat him as well. I nod. After 10 minutes I restrain Naruto with my chakra chains and seal the Kyuubi chakra back inside him and he calms down. Kiba is unconscious and having a hard time breathing. I tell his mom he is banned from my village and isn't allowed anywhere near here or my family. I place a seal on him that will shock him. Shout he get too close to me, my family and Hinata. His mom picks him up and I teleport them back to the Leaf Village. Hopefully that will teach him a lesson cause next time I won't be able to stop my nephew from killing him. Ichiro page 0, v. It's early the next morning. I am getting ready for my wedding. After I shower, shave, and brush my teeth I have my wedding kimono on and I am putting cologne on when Naruto walks in having trouble. I chuckle and say come here Naruto. He walks over. I adjust his kimono and get a bottle of cologne that I bought for him and give him a couple of sprays. I say okay Naruto you're ready. He hugs me and says thanks uncle. I smile and say you're welcome. Naruto come on we need to be there so I can walk with my brides and you your flower girl. He blushes a bit. I chuckle. We get to the start. I see Anko and Shizunea in their wedding kimonos and they look gorgeous in them. Anko's is a bright red with cranes and flowers. Shizunea's is pink with intricate patterns. I say you two look beautiful in those. They blush and say thank you Ichiro-kun. I look and see Hinata blushing from Naruto saying the same to her. We get in position. I take one of my bride's arms and we walk into the temple where a priest is waiting to marry me. Anko and Shizunea. Naruto has one of Hinata's arm and walking with her. Once we take our positions the priest begins the ceremony. I turn to each other and say our vows. Once we finish he says now by the power bestowed upon me the goddess Amaterasu I name you husband and wife. You may now kiss your brides. I kiss both Anko and Shizunea. The crowd cheers. I take one of their arms and we walk out. Naruto page 0, v. Me and Hinata are clapping and cheering for my uncle and my new aunts. I wrap a arm around Hinata. She leans into me and we walk out. I see pervy Sage with Granny Tsunade. I don't know what he said but it got him a knot on his head. I laugh a bit. Classic pervy Sage. He sees us and walks over and says you ready for tomorrow Naruto? I pull Hinata closer and say yay I am ready. What time are we leaving tomorrow? He says early tomorrow morning after breakfast. It will also give you time to say your goodbyes. I nod and walk with Hinata to the reception in the palace. Ichiro page 0, v. The reception is going great, everyone is having a good time. Lady Tsunadea is enjoying the best sake that my village can offer, a bit too much cause she is hitting on Jiraiya, who is going along with it. I hope he doesn't do anything that will kill him, cause if he sleeps with her he will be dead. When she wakes up in the morning, my mom is talking to her new daughters-in-law, my grandfather is talking with the visiting cage, enjoying some sake with them. Naruto is dancing with Hinata, who is blushing like crazy. Neji is keeping a close eye on her. The Raikage arrived at last minute, so Neji is watching him and his shinobi closely in case they try anything like they did when Hinata was 6. Hinata's father is watching them as well. I am drinking with some friends, then I hear a lot of shouting. I look to the door and see one of my shinobi. He runs over as quick as he can and whispers in my ear. I groan. Enko asks what's wrong Ichiro-kun. I say it's the Uchiha brat, he's here looking for Naruto, he wants a fight. Lion, my Anbu, appears next to me and I say go and force the Uchiha away, I don't want anything to disrupt my wedding. He nods and says hi your highness and congratulations. I nod my thanks and he goes to fulfill his orders. Shizuneya says how's Sasuke here, he defected for Orochimaru a few months ago. That's when I get on guard, if Sasuke is here so is Orochimaru. I call another Anbu and whisper to him so I don't cause a panic. Gather all sensory Anbu we got and go over the whole village. Orochimaru of the Sannin may be here, and do it as quietly as possible and check everywhere, even places you wouldn't normally look. He's a slippery bastard. He nods and goes to do his orders. This not good. What does Orochimaru want to come to my village? After a couple of hours he reports, your highness, we searched the whole village, no sign of Orochimaru of the Sannin, we even hand nuke dogs search, only Sasuke's scent was detected. I sigh in relief, only Sasuke came here, he came for Naruto. I was thinking it was Kiba, but we would have heard him scream from the seal taking effect. It's getting late so I stand and say thanks to all who attended my wedding, to my two beautiful brides. It's late and we all could do with some rest. Have a good night everyone. They bow and head for their homes or hotels. I stand up and lead my wivvies to our new home. The next morning, Ichiro page 0v. I wake up and carefully get out of bed without waking my wives. I get dressed and head to my office. I overslept. Once there I see a woman in a green dress with white sleeves and has red hair like us. I say how can I help you miss? She turns and I gasp. I say Anbu, get me my nephew here now. If he ain't home he's at the training grounds. No go. The rush to get Naruto. I look at the woman in shock and say how are you alive? Naruto page 0v. I'm in the middle of training before I leave with pervy Sage. Lion shows up and says Lord Naruto, your uncle needs you in his office at once and hurry. I nod and rush towards my uncle's office. Once there I walk in and say hey uncle, what is it that you needed me so urgently? I see him talking and hugging a woman in a green dress and red hair. I say uncle, who is that? He says after wiping his face of tears, he says Naruto, I don't know how or why but this is your mother. Naruto page 0v. I'm against the wall in shock and confusion. I say how my mother died the day I was born. She says I should have died considering what happened to me. The Kyuubi ripped from me and one of its claws going through my stomach, but somehow me and your father survived. That night we fled so we can recover. That's when uncle cuts in with an angry tone in his voice. In doing so you left your newborn son who was made a Jinchuriki at the mercy of the village that hated him for his whole stay in that village. He's had assassination attempts on. He was beaten to near death. If Lord Third was alive I'd be calling a private meeting to give him a piece of my mind for keeping this from Naruto. So Kushina, you also broke the key rule of Out Clan, never abandon family. I can have you kicked from the clan, seal your bloodline, so give me a good reason not to. Gigi walks in and sees my mom and glares at her and says well isn't this a surprise? First Ichiro's mother returns, now Naruto's. Who next? My son. Uncle says Gigi, I was about to send for you about this matter. Exactly. Now little sister, tell us why did you abandon your son? She says I did it at Lord Third's request. He said me and Minato needed time to recover and he would make sure Naruto is well looked after and kept safe. Uncle says well he wasn't. Naruto had to mature quickly to survive in that village. Did your husband agree to this as well? Did his love for that village blind him to the possibility that his wishes would be disregarded? Your son was hated, abused and neglected for something he had no say in whatsoever. For 6 years he ran away and found this village I welcomed with open arms. I took him and fed him, clothed him, trained him, made him my heir. He's had that village after just because of the Kyuubi that is sealed inside of him. Once he revealed that he is the son of the 4th Hokage, they wanted him back even more just cause of the political power he holds. Is your husband here? She nods and says yes, and our younger son and daughter are here as well. I say whoa, I have 2 younger siblings and you actually took the time to care for them. How do they even see me? Do they see me in less than them just because they were raised by you and father while I wasn't? She bows her head and says I am so sorry. Sochi, once me and Minato were recovered we planned to return to raise you, but I fell pregnant with your brother and then your sister. They are here to meet you. Ichiro page 0v. I'm absolutely furious at my little sister. She abandoned her eldest. I say bring them in, then I want to see how this goes. I sit at my desk while a tall man with blonde hair walks in with a boy and girl maybe a year or two younger than Naruto comes in. He and the kids bow to me. Kushina must have taught them about how to greet me. I nod back at them and say, so you're Namikaze Minato? He bows again and says, yes, your highness, and these are Naruto and Mena. The girl had blonde hair like him while the boy has red hair like his mother. I look at them and say, so you two are my nephew and niece? They bow and say, yes, your highness. I wave my hand at them and say, no need to call me that, call me Uncle Ichiro or Ichi. Okay. The girl smiles while the boy nods. I say, you want to meet your older brother? The boy gives a glare while the girl smiles and nods. I point to Naruto and say, Naruto, come here so your siblings can meet you. He walks over and stands by me and says, hi, I'm your older brother Naruto. Mena keep glaring at him while Naruto hugs him, telling him how glad she is to meet him. I see Naruto really is happy to meet Naruto while Menma, he looks like he resents Naruto for some reason. I say, well, Naruto here is about to be leaving on a 3-year training trip with his godfather Jiraiya. I see Menma's glare get worse while Naruto smiles and says she is happy for him. I see Minato walk off. I guess he went to find Jiraiya. I turn to Naruto and say, Naruto, better go make sure you have everything you need. Okay. He nods and walks out. Minato page 0v. I find Jiraiya sensei and say, after calming him down, I need you to cancel the training trip with Naruto. He gives me a look and says, why should I do that? Minato, I made Naruto a promise and I don't plan to break this one. I say, cause Naruto and Menma needed more. Me and Kushina trained them to be able to control Naruto should he lose control of the Kyuubi. He gives me another look and says they don't need to. Naruto has control over the Kyuubi, and from what he tells me, he and the Kyuubi are on good terms. He needs this training trip to prepare for the Akatsuki. I am sure he already resents you and Kushina for abandoning him. He will hate you more if he finds out you are trying to keep him from training. Do you really want that? Minato, I sure wouldn't. I sigh and say, then I will take his hate and anger. His brother and sister need the training more. He sighs and says, I told you, Minato, I am not breaking my promise to him. I can train his siblings once me and Naruto return. They will just have to wait. I ask, why was Naruto wearing a ring? For he says he's engaged to the heiress of the Hyuga clan, Hinata. I was shocked that Hisashi would agree to that. Reading my shock, Jiraiya sensei says Hisashi is the one who proposed it. Ichiro agreed so long and Naruto and Hinata agreed to it, and they did, and don't try anything. They already had interference from a boy from the Inuzuka. I say, I am sure. I wonder if Jiraiya sensei says, I'll stop you right there. Minato, you try anything and Naruto will never forgive you. He loves Hinata and he nearly killed the Inuzuka boy multiple times. If you try what I am thinking you're gonna try, I ask, what would that be, sensei? He says you're gonna try and have Hisashi end the engagement between Naruto and his daughter and have him betroth Hinata to Menma. I nod. That's when I hear, what was that? I turn and see my oldest son Naruto, and he didn't look happy at all. Naruto page 0v. I can't believe what I just heard. I am already mad at my parents for abandoning me. Now my father wants to take Hinata from and force her to marry my brother, who is all he's done since I met him was glare at me. I walk over and say, no one, and I mean no one, is taking Hinata from me. I already had enough problems with Kiba. I nearly killed him last time. If you even try, I don't care. If you are my dad, so far you're showing you don't give a damn about me. That's when Pervy Sage says he has also been trying to get me to cancel our training trip and take your siblings instead, said it was to help them learn to control you. I glare murderously at my father and say, you really think that low of me? Think I am some beast to be controlled over something that I had forced on me when I was a newborn? That is something you forced on me. Then you and mom left me at the mercy of that wretched village that tried to either kill me or control me. I was beaten on a daily basis, more so on my birthday, which until I came here I didn't celebrate it. Hell, I feared it for a time cause it meant I would have been hunted down for sport before I was beaten to near death and then treated by doctors who didn't want to treat me. Sarutobi Gigi forces them under penalty of torture or death. Even then he had to have Anbu watch them. So far you have shown me that you never cared for me. The only ones I can stand right now is mom and Naruto. You and Menma I can't stand. At least mom has shown remorse for leaving me and Naruto actually treats me like a big brother. Let me guess one of the reasons Menma hates me. When you or mom promised him he could be heir to the Uzumaki clan, but you or mom can't do that, so you thought by coming here my uncle, who has been more of a father to me than you, to remove me as heir and make Menma heir. Uncle Ichiro isn't going to do that. The only time I see him removing me as heir is when one of his wives becomes pregnant and has a child of his own. That I will understand, but what you are trying. I see him get a shocked look on his face. I hear him mumble, Kyuubi. I guess Kurama sent some chakra through my system and my eyes are like his now. I say, so you see me as they, Kyuubi? You're no different than the villagers of the leaf. I am done with you. You're my father and you do all this to me. I turn to Pervy Sage and say, I'll get my bag and meet you at the gate. He nods and I walk away. Jiraiya page 0v. I look at Minato and say, you see Naruto as the Kyuubi. He looks at me and says, no. I say, then why mumble Kyuubi under your breath? I told you Naruto has control over the Kyuubi and that him and the Kyuubi are on good terms. He says it was a reaction when his eyes became like the Kyuubi. I don't hate Naruto. That's when I say, then why are you trying to stop me from training him and end his engagement to Hinata? It may have been arranged, but they do love each other. Look Minato, I need to finish getting things ready for my and Naruto's trip. Ill-trained Menma and Naruko. When me and Naruto return in 2.5 to 3 years time, they can wait. I made Naruto a promise and I don't intend to break it. I walk away. Naruto page 0, v. Who does he think he is? Not only was he thinking on taking Hinata away from me and give her to my younger brother, but also stop my training trip with pervy Sage. As I am walking, I see my mom. She says, what's wrong Sochi? I sigh and say, it's dad. She asks, why? What did your father do? I say, he tried to stop my training trip with pervy Sage and he was also thinking of taking Hinata from me and giving her to Menma. She asks, who's Hinata? Sochi. I say, she is my fiancé. Uncle and her dad arranged us to get married once we turned 16. If we agreed, and we did, we already had interference from the heir of the Inuzuka. His name is Kiba. I nearly killed him the last time he tried, and to make it worse, dad called me Kyuubi under his breath. That is when she looked shocked and says, I'll have a word with your father. She walks closer and hugs me. I stiffen at the contact but hug her back. She says, I've said it before, but I am sorry I left you all alone Sochi. It wasn't my intention despite how he acts. Me and your father love you. I ask, why does Menma hate me? She says, I am not entirely sure Sochi. He said he wanted to be heir to the Uzumaki clan, so he asked me, but I told him I didn't have the authority to make him heir. I told him my brother does. So when we got here and he found out he made you heir, he must have gotten upset. What else it could be, I have no idea. Ichiro page 0, v. I'm in my office doing paperwork when Menma walks in and says, can we talk? Uncle. I nod and say, sure, come in. Menma. He sits down and I ask, so what's on your mind? He takes a deep breath and says, I want to be heir to the Uzumaki clan. Can I be heir? I say, I am sorry Menma, but your older brother is the heir. He's even talked to me and said that once one of my wives becomes pregnant and gives birth, he will step down and let my child be heir. So I am sorry Menma, but you can't be heir. He looks upset but then says, does that also mean his engagement to the Hyuga heiress voided? That's when I say, no, it's not. Why? He said, dad told me. That's when I put my hand up and say, I'll stop you right there Menma. Your dad has no control over that. If you want to marry a Hyuga, Hinata has a younger sister who is around your age. Her name is Hanabi. Have your father ask Hisashi Hyuga for arranged marriage, but Hinata is off limits. Naruto almost killed the last person who tried to take Hinata from him, and that person is the heir of the Inuzuka clan, and I trained Naruto personally, him and your cousins, and trust me, I am stronger than your father. His flying thunder god jutsu incorporates fuinjutsu, which your mother's clan specializes in, and I am a master at kenjutsu. Your mother is too. Now if that's all Menma, I need to get back to my work. He says, can I ask you something else then? Uncle. I nod and say, yes. What is it? He says, can you help me with my fire style ninjutsu? Neither mom or dad use it, and she said I had to ask you when we got here. I think it over and say, sure, meet me at the main training grounds in a couple of hours and I'll train you, and you can see if your great-grandfather can give you some tips. Mito, my little sister, appear. Menma, meet your aunt Mito, my and your mother's younger sister. She will show you to your great-grandfather. Say I sent you for some tips in fire style ninjutsu. He follows Mito to Gigi. Hopefully Gigi can humble that boy a good bit. He needs it. From what I can tell, he has a superiority complex when it comes to his older brother Naruto. Menma page 0, v. I follow Aunt Mito to Gigi's house. It's a traditional house. Aunt Mito says this was one of the only houses standing after the cloud mist and stone attack during the Second Great War. It was built when the village was founded, so it's very old. Make sure to take your shoes off at the door. Gigi is very strict about that. Okay, I nod and go in. I take my shoes off at the door and walk in. I say, Gigi, you here? I am Menma, Kushina's second son. He says, enter my great-grandson. I've been expecting you. I walk into what I guess is the living room. He nods and says, good, you removed your shoes. I guess Mito told you about that, did she? I nod and say, hi Gigi. He nods and says, so what can I help you with? Menma, I say, I got Uncle Ichiro teaching me fire ninjutsu, but he sent me here for advice on before he trains me. He nods. I am not surprised. Until your uncle was born, I was one of the strongest fire style users in the 5 nations. I rivaled the great Uchiha Madara himself when it came to fire ninjutsu. I know Kushina can't use fire style, and I am guessing your father can't either. I nod and say, hi Tusan only can use lightning and wind style, while Ka-san can only use water and wind. He nods and says you may have inherited fire style from me, then Ichiro got it from me and his other grandfather. I am not allowed to say who that is, you'll have to ask him or his mother since she is in the village, but follow me. We stand up and head outside and see he has an outdoor dojo with a small koi fish pond. He pulls a rope and a metal target comes down, it looks beat up. He says I trained your uncle with this when it came to teaching him a new jutsu or just target practice. First he'll teach you the fireball jutsu and we will work our way up from there. Now watch me. He does the seals and says fire style fireball jutsu. A fireball shoots out his mouth and hits the target. He says the key to this is to build up chakra in your lungs and as you breath out it will combust into a fireball. The size depends on the amount of chakra you use. Okay, now try it. I do the seals and say fire style fireball jutsu. A small fireball shoots put and hits the target. Gigi nods and says not bad for your first shot, we need to work on your chakra control. That's when we hear uncle say Gigi Menma. You hear I say we are back here uncle. He walks into the backyard and says so how's it going? I say Gigi is teaching me the fireball jutsu. He nods. Gigi says I am also thinking of teaching him my own personal taijutsu style. Uncle's eyes widen in shock. I ask why is that surprising uncle? He says cause Gigi hasn't taught that to anyone, not me, not my dad or Naruto. Any reason for changing your mind? Gigi says he has the same build as me, he may be able to withstand the training of it. I ask no disrespect Gigi, but what's so special about your personal taijutsu style? He chuckles a little and says it's very deadly. I developed it myself when I was your age. I created it to be used with Ryuji and Yaka. The sword your uncle carries, it allows you to use fire as a weapon in it, and once mastered it expends very little chakra. Uncle says you better take Gigi's offer. Menma, he doesn't make offers like this often. I only learned 2 techniques from it and it's because of my natural strength. Here I'll show you. Uncle removes his shirt showing off his well-built chest and arms. I am sure if there were girls here they would go crazy. He walks over to a boulder, takes a wide stance and punches it once while saying Ikusho. He disappears in a burst of speed and reappears and yells while punching with both fists sukatso. The steel boulder turns to dust. My jaw shoots open in shock. He pops his knuckles and puts his shirt back on and says see, that's the power of this taijutsu style. I only know those 2 techniques. I say if you can't handle the training uncle then how can I? Gigi says cause you take after me, you have the same build as me, the same personality. So far you are the only one I've seen who has what it takes to learn this style of taijutsu. Your uncle only learned those 2 moves because he had the strength to make use of them. He barely uses them. I ask why is that uncle? Uncle says cause of the stress it puts on my body. I may have just broke one of my hands. His right hand cracks again as he moves it and he grimaces and says yep, my right hand is broken. Well, why don't you 2 get started while I go have my hand healed? Okay, remember Menma, this is a powerful taijutsu style. It can rival the Goken style without the 8 inner gates, so pay close attention to Gigi as he teaches you. He walks away to go get his hand healed. Gigi says so shall we begin? My great grandson. I nod and say hi Gigi. He smirks and says good. Ichiro page 0v. As I leave the hospital after having my hand healed up, I see my mom and walk over to her and say Ka-san. She turns and sees me and smiles and says you look so much like my father, I almost mistook you for him. I am sure you would be pleased to see his grandson is as powerful as you are. I say I wished I could have met him. She says so do I. Sochi, now why aren't you in your office working? I say I am helping Gigi train Menma. She says your nephew? I nod and say he asked me to help him with his fire jutsu, so I sent him to Gigi to see if he could help him until I could show up, and next I know Gigi is teaching Menma his personal taijutsu style. Even she was shocked. She knows how strong that taijutsu style is. She asks why did he chose to train Menma that style for? I say he said Menma takes after him and has the same body build as him, so he has a chance to learn it. She nods and we just walk around and talk. As we do, Minato walks up to me and says your highness, may I speak with you? I say what is it? Minato, I am spending time with my mother. He says it's about Menma. I ask what about him? He says you have to make him your heir. I scoff and say sorry Minato, Naruto is my heir. I've already spoken to Menma about it and he's accepted it. Naruto is my heir. He's only stepping down as heir once one of my wives becomes pregnant. Now if that's all, excuse me. He says can you train Menma? Then I say he's currently being trained by my grandfather right now. Menma came to me for training. I sent him to my grandfather for some training until I was able, but now he's being trained in my grandfather's taijutsu style, which he doesn't teach to just anyone. Menma is the second to be trained in it. He asks who was the first. I say me, but I am not able to use it effectively. I broke my hand demonstrating a couple of techniques of it to him. 2 hours later with Menma. Menma page 0v. I'm plopped on the ground huffing and puffing trying to catch my breath. Gigi Yamamoto is a slave driver. He says tired already. I expected more. Come boy, show me you're worthy of learning my taijutsu. I stand up and say, Gigi, can I get a drink of water? We've been at it for a couple of hours. He gets a thinking face and says, very well, I'll give you a 15-minute break. Get a drink of water and catch your breath. You've done well, Menma. I smile. From what I see, getting Gigi's praise isn't easy. As I am resting, I hear someone say, Gigi, Menma, you hear? It was Uncle Ichiro. He walks into the back and says, getting a break, Menma. I nod. Uncle kneels in front of me and says, I heard you're doing well. Getting Gigi's praise isn't easy. Trust me, it took me breaking my arm to get it. He stands and says, Gigi, I believe ready to learn the next technique of Bankai Zakana no Tachi. Zanjutsu Gokui. Gigi's eyes widen and says, you sure, Ichiro? That technique is very dangerous. I ask, why is that, Gigi? He says, that surrounds the user in flames reaching 15 million degrees Celsius. Anyone too close will burst into ash and the user can make it invisible, meaning unless you know the name of the technique, and that's a defensive technique. But alright, Ichiro, tomorrow we will begin learning Zanjutsu Gokui. Uncle nods and leaves. Gigi says, let us continue. Youngest son of Kushina, show me what you got. It's been 2 months since Naruto left for training. The village is a little quiet without him. Menma has learned Gigi's taijutsu style very well. He is learning it faster than I did. Gigi was right. Menma has what it takes to learn it. I've almost mastered the second Bankai ability. I have to go to a desert to practice it since it could reduce the land of whirlpools to a desert, not to mention it could kill anyone too close to me when it's used. I just hope I don't end up having to use it. Both Anko and Shizune are now pregnant and are a month and a half along. Naruto also sends me letters once a month telling me how he's doing. I've told him about my wives being pregnant. It's been very peaceful lately. I stand up from my desk and pop my back, stretching, and have a shadow clone take my place and head outside for some fresh air. As I do, I hear someone yell, heads up. I look up and see a fireball heading my way. I smirk. I know that voice. It was Menma. I easily swat away the fireball, causing it to go out. I see Menma rubbing the back of his head and says, sorry uncle, I got carried away. I put too much chakra into it and lost control. I smile and say, it's okay Menma, it happened to me when I was your age, but from now on try to keep it in the training grounds. Okay, I don't want a complaint come in. Someone saying their home or shop was burned down by a fireball. Being the king's nephew only gets you so much leeway. Okay, he nods and runs off. He's so much like his mother, I swear. I walk around the village. People bow to me saying good morning. I bow back and say good morning to them. I've let my true appearance show now. The only difference between me and my grandfather Madara is I have two red streaks in my hair, a symbol of my Uzumaki heritage. I wonder how strong Naruto has gotten in the time he's been away. Some good news came. The Leaf Village elders have mostly backed off on Naruto returning, especially once they heard their fourth Hokage was alive and well. And in my village, Minato though is still trying to make Menma the heir of my clan, even though he doesn't have that power. I swear I think he hates Naruto. He may not be showing it, but he is acting like it. Naruto already wants nothing to do with him. He's only opened up to his mother and sister. Hinata was moved to my village to keep her away from Kiba since he's not allowed here after what he pulled before my wedding. I still laugh at how his mother described the seal that Naruto placed did to Kiba when he got too close to Hinata. Apparently it shocks the hell out of his family jewels until he is far enough from Hinata. The last time I was in the Leaf he tried to get me to remove it. I told I couldn't or wouldn't, so to keep him from constantly being shocked in his jewels I had Hinata moved to my village. She has been trained by Mito and her cousin Neji comes a few times a month to help her with her gentle fist. She actually likes living in my village. She can't wait for Naruto to get home since once he does their wedding is gonna be planned. But it's a nice spring day in the Whirlpool village if you can get past the humidity that is. It's been 3 years since Naruto has left on his training trip. I wonder how much stronger he's gotten. Shizunea and Anko have given birth. Shizunea had a girl, we named her Fumiko. While Anko had a boy, we named him Genri Uusai after my grandfather. Which he was happy about. He's been spoiling them both. 1. A side of him I've never seen from him. I'm in my office doing paperwork when one of my Anbu appears and says, Ichiro-sama, Naruto-sama and Lord Jiraiya have returned. I jump up and run to the gate to see Naruto. I smile, he looks just like his father now. I run to him and tackle him in a hug. He yells in surprise but hugs me back once he knows it's me. I say, welcome home Naruto. He smiles and says, glad to be back uncle. I smile and have them both follow me to my office. I sit and say, okay, report, how did it go? He smiles and says, went really well uncle, I am a lot stronger now, I can hold my ground against pervy sage here. Jiraiya gets a tick mark at the nickname and says, yes he can, I am proud at how strong he got in the time we've been gone. I nod and say, good, cause now I've got to test you myself. Think you can take your uncle on Naruto? He smirks and says, maybe, but I am up for it. I nod and say, Good, now follow me, there is a couple of people I want you to meet. They follow me to my home, we walk in and I say, Shizunea, Anko, we got guests. They come down and see Naruto and Jiraiya. Shizunea says, Naruto, is that you? He says, yay, it's me, Aunt Shizunea. She smiles at him. That's when Genryusai and Fumiko come down and hide behind their mothers. Fumiko asks, who's that to-san? I say, this is your cousin Naruto. Naruto, this is my children Fumiko and Genryusai. He walks over to them and kneels down and says, hey, I'm Naruto, I am your cousin. Fumiko and Genryusai hug him, saying they've been wanting to meet him. Naruto smiles and hugs them back. As he stands up, a black blur tackles Naruto. Turns out it's Hinata. Naruto smiles and hugs her back and kisses her and says, I missed you, Haim. She says, I missed you too, Naruto-kun. I say, so why don't we have dinner at a restaurant tonight to welcome Naruto back home? Everyone agrees. Naruto and Jiraiya follow me back to my office. I say, okay Naruto, your test will be in a couple of days to give you time to rest and spend time with your fiancé. He nods and says, okay uncle, and thank you. I tell him you're welcome, and he walks out to go spend time with Hinata. I turn to Jiraiya and say, okay, anything happen while you two were training? He says, yes, Danzo tried to have him taken back to the leaf to extract the Kyuubi. I stopped the rude Anbu he sent and he hasn't tried since. I glare and grit my teeth. That old war hawk is asking for it. I wish I could kill him, but he has too many supporters in the leaf. They call for war to avenge him if I did. I sigh and say, what about the Akatsuki? He says, haven't seen or heard anything on them since that time Itachi tried to take Naruto as a kid. I nod and say, this prolonged silence from them worries me though. Jiraiya nods and says, yes, but my intel says they are gonna make a move soon. Naruto is ready for them now, I am sure of it. I nod and say, good, and as a thank you here. I hand him a card and say, that will allow you to buy as much sake you want while you're in the village, but don't abuse it, okay? He smiles and nods and runs out. I shake my head and say to myself, so soon the Akatsuki will make their move. I'll have to keep security around the village at high as a precaution. Naruto, my nephew, prepare yourself, you're about yo, get busy. It's been a couple of days since Naruto returned and now it's time for his test. My Anbu guards, my grandfather, and surprisingly Mema, who is still training under my grandfather, are at the testing area when Naruto arrives with Hinata. I say, good, you're here Hinata, please join the others in the viewing platform. She joins the others. 1. I say, okay Naruto, ready to show your uncle what you can do now? He grins and nods. He takes a stance. From what I can tell, that's Frog Kumet Jiraiya's taijutsu style. I take my stance in the Uzumaki clan taijutsu style called Whirlpool dance. We charge each other. Naruto block and redirects all my punches and kicks. I switch to the interceptor fist and catch him off guard and land a hit on his side. He grunts in pain and slides back a bit. Naruto page 0, v. Man, that hurt uncle isn't holding back. I see him preform some seals and says, fire style dragon cyclone, a twister of flame heads at me. How do I counter? I can't use wind style, that will just make his jutsu stronger. I preform the seals and say, water style water shockwave. Water from the nearby swamp shoots forward and collides with the fire cyclone, causing a cloud of steam to engulf the testing area. I close my eyes and use my senses to fell where my uncle is. I dodge a kick aimed for my head. I try to sweep my uncle's leg from under him. He jumps up to dodge it and brings his leg down. I roll back to dodge. My uncle says, your reflexes have improved greatly, nephew. I smirk and say, you haven't lost your touch either, uncle. I hear him grunt in amusement. Next I know he's right in front of me, sending me flying with a punch. I land on my feet holding my stomach. I say, you still hit like a freight train. He smirks and says, come Naruto, I am nowhere near done testing you. I smirk and make a Rasengan and charge him. He barely dodges it in time. Ichiro page 0, v. So he learned the Rasengan, his father's signature jutsu. I draw my sword and say, let's see how proficient you are with weapons then. I charge him. Ryuji and Yaka raised high. He draws a couple of kunai and blocks my downward slash. I slowly cause him to drop to a knee. He grunts in effort. I dodge a kick from a shadow clone. I say, I almost forgot how good at using shadow clones you are. I kick it and it disappears in a poof of smoke. He smirks as another appears and sends me skidding back from a kick to my side. I smirk and sheath my sword. I see Naruto smirk back. I say, very good nephew, so far you're showing me that you've learned from Jiraiya well, but you're not ready to take me just yet. He has a confused look on his face as I reappear behind him with my sword at his neck. I say, you did well Naruto, very well. If I had to guess your current strength, you'd be at least Anbu captain. He groans in frustration and says, so close though. I chuckle a bit and sheath my sword and help him stand and say, well done Naruto, very well done, I am proud of you, I am sure your mother will be right Kushina. That's when my sister appears and says, yes, I'm very proud of how strong Naruto has become, Ni-san. Naruto smiles and hugs his mother. They got close before he left on his training trip. I ask him, did you learn Fuinjutsu on your trip Naruto? He nods and says, yes, but I find it difficult. I smile and say, seals are difficult Naruto, but it's an art rarely learned outside our village. He nods and shows me some of the seals he is working on. Kushina looks at them with great interest. They walk of and discuss them. I smile, he's almost a clone of Kushina personality-wise. I say, Naruto, go ahead and spend time with your mother, she missed you, okay? He nods and keeps walking away with Kushina and Hinata, who caught up to them. Naruto, my boy, you defiantly have what it takes to become the most powerful shinobi of our age. Possibly greater than Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha, my grandfather.
That's all for now. If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comments.